Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. It is a special episode of Rule the Galaxy podcast, and I'm actually trying to kind of come up with a name for these because I think this is like our sixth time doing it. I was thinking like gaming around the galaxy or something with
Oh man,
Jakejames
that's not so
Lugo.
cheesy. That's not worthy of the audience. The audience is gonna be like, "What are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
what's the matter with you?"
gaming around the galaxy.
Oh
Yeah, like
God.
Galaxy Gamers. No, but
Oh God, that's even worse. It's horrible.
but we've got Jakejames Lugo on here, and there's some gaming news today and everything that came out, a little
Yeah.
bit of some trailer action that came out, some hype build up. So
Mhm.
why don't you reintroduce yourself if this is the first time someone's listening to you, and talk about what you do and what you've been up to lately.
Sure, yeah. For anybody who doesn't already know, if you haven't been listening to Rule the Galaxy, shame on you. Number one. Number two, my name is Jakejames Lugo. I'm a writer slash content creator slash podcaster host. I do a lot of different content online, both on places like YouTube, on TikTok, on various social media. I write for various gaming outlets and freelance for different places. I talk about games a lot. I love video games. It's one of my favorite things to discuss, talking about game reviews, let's plays, opinion pieces that I've written. Well, I have over 13 years experience publishing content online in various places, some of your favorite websites too, talking about video games. But I also happen to really love Star Wars as well. Star Wars is like my second thing right next to video games as far as fandom. It's like there's a couple different fandoms that I'm a big that are a big part of my life: gaming, Star Wars, Batman, and everything else like afterwards. But I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars games. I love talking about Star Wars games and just everything in general. I just have a fun time with it. I love being part of the greater conversations of games, and I just have a ball with it. And I love coming on here to Rule the
Absolutely.
Galaxy, to come chat.
Yeah, I love it. Yo, speaking of Batman, have you seen some of those McFarlane figures that
Oh
they're coming out
yeah.
with?
My
Dude,
man
those look sweet.
McFarlane came through, and let me tell you something. Like I was a little nitpicky because I saw the Keaton. It's either the Burn or the Keaton Batmobile for some people. We're gonna call it the Keaton Batmobile just for
Hmm.
argument's sake. But that Keaton Batmobile looks gorgeous. But I am not a fan of those colored, like gold colored bat signals on the side because I'm a traditionalist. I like the
Hmm.
original '89 model that has the silver on there because I think it looks sleek. It looks good. There's no too much of anything except for like the headlights. But again, those are headlights. They're supposed to be like that. The little accents here feels like they just wanted a variation that they could resell from McFarlane or from DC Toys or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I did see that gold on there too, and did like kind of notice the difference. You know what's weird is the
Mhm.
the Christian Bale figure they're coming out with for that one. That one looks really good. The
Yeah,
Keaton one looks excellent. Like
looks
I
great. The
think,
new Keaton suit one for the
yeah,
Flash.
yeah, that looks awesome. What's weird is the Ben Affleck one. It almost looks like they weren't allowed to use Ben Affleck's face because the mold on the face for that one, it kind of doesn't look like him a little bit.
Mhm.
The suit totally looks like him, but I've seen their older Batfleck, as some people call it. I've seen their older models of him, and definitely, I don't know. I wonder if there was some kind of weird copywriting or something involved
I
there.
don't know. That could
Yeah.
always be a thing. I mean, it could be the sculpt, because
Hmm.
some of the earlier Michael Keaton stuff, unless we got more to this time frame, what didn't always look like Keaton when it came to the Batman stuff. But now, obviously, we got better companies and better artists working on it and stuff. But it could be any number of reasons. The key thing though is that this is a Michael Keaton Batman movie. The reason why a lot of people, myself included, are seeing the Flash is because Michael Keaton is coming back as Batman, and they got the '89 model Batmobile, the Keaton Batmobile, and they got the '89 Batwing. That's pretty much like the bat jet from that original Batman '89 movie, which looks a little different. We'll give it some credit for having a little variation on the design. It's a little more practical and stuff. But I mean, come
Yep.
on, like you saw that if you saw that trailer and you saw Michael Keaton in there, they even got the jingle for the Danny Elfman music. Like I'm in. That's it. I'm in. Like
Yeah.
I gotta watch this.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is going to be good. I think the Flash is, it's pretty much like, to me, it gives me vibes of Spider-Man No Way Home. How they're going to
Yeah,
be throwing it back to some of these things that made the
of
franchise so
course.
great, basically.
Yeah, I mean, because look, they got Affleck coming back as Batman. They got Keaton coming back as Batman, which is the big story of this
Hmm.
entire movie. Like that. Obviously, Ezra Miller's a part of it, and his whole controversy aside and stuff, this still is a Flash movie per se. But I think, like with everything that's happened up to this point, it's become more about everything else other than the Flash. That's the
Hmm.
unfortunate truth, and it's not just the Ezra Miller stuff. I think that people have wanted a Flash movie for so long, and with everything changing up with the DCU or the DCEU, this point going for whatever James Gunn's going to do, I think a lot of people have checked out, and this is just like a hodgepodge of just getting people to come see this movie at this point.
Yeah. So I plan to see it, and honestly, a lot of these DC movies, I wasn't really rushing to the theater to see all of them, just because I don't know. What my problem was is I bought into the hype of some bad reviews when it comes to that stuff, which I just need to see that stuff for myself. So it's exciting that Ben Affleck's coming back, because I feel like he almost got like a Star Wars prequel treatment, where like people didn't like it at first, and then like people are fans of him.
He's not a bad Batman, though. That's the thing. He's not a bad actor to be Batman. Like, number one, it's Ben Affleck. He's an Academy Award winning actor and director. He's got his flowers. He's a heavyweight when it comes to acting in movies. The thing is that the scripts he was given, and also keep in mind, he was supposed to do his own Batman movie that just did not get made. That completely, like, everything going on with Warner Brothers completely was in chaos, and that got dropped. So I feel bad for him, because he never truly, even with Batman v Superman, even with Justice League, it wasn't even technically the Justice League movie he made because of everything that happened behind the scenes until we got Zack Snyder's Justice League, that whole recut of that film. So this is like his last outing as Batman, which kind of sucks because he's only in it for a short time. He was open about it too. I don't know if you saw that interview that he did recently. I think it was with Variety or Hollywood Reporter, where he said, I'm in it for like 5 minutes. It's like, at least if we get good Affleck Batman for 5 minutes, it's a good 5 minutes for him to go out on. You know what I mean? Instead of the garbage he had before.
Yeah, I love the honesty with stuff like that. Like I read a clip of him saying that he took some of his shots for the Snyder cut in Zack Snyder's like backyard or something. He said they were filming,
that's real. That it was his and a couple others that did that, like other extra stuff they did with like what was it at this point? Everybody's probably seen it at this point, but like with the Joker and all the stuff when they're talking, that was all in Zack Snyder's backyard, which is cool because they put in the effort and the time to go do that.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff, because that shows that they're passionate about giving you, it's important to them, basically.
Yeah.
So all right, we're hitting some DC stuff. I'm gonna jump on this early now, since we're in other universes other than Star Wars. Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
You saw Ant-Man. I have not seen it yet. I know Joe, our host, did it, and you reviewed it. You reviewed it for Clownfish.
Yes, I wrote a full review for Clownfish TV. I've done a couple movie reviews now as of late. I've done a lot over the last couple of weeks, because in the same like span of a couple of weeks that I did Ant-Man 3 or Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I also did Shazam: Fury of the Gods. I also did Scream 6. I've done a lot. And then coming up this week, at the time we're recording this, I'm going to be doing John Wick 4, which is like right around the corner. But yeah, I did it, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And while I think there's good aspects to the film, and I think there's good things in there, Jonathan Majors probably being the best aspect of it, because that's his first outing as Kang the Conqueror. But I still think he gets kind of gypped in this movie a little bit because of the script and a lot of other things. The movie's just not a necessary viewing. I feel like it's not the big opening we wanted for Phase 5, because this is the first Phase 5 movie after Wakanda Forever, which was the end of Phase 4. And while that went off on whatever note that it did, this one was really, people were hoping like this was going to be the banger. This was going to like start connecting the dots for this multiverse saga. And I really didn't feel that way. I mean, we'd see some multiverse stuff, obviously, but it really wasn't a movie that I felt like really was like the big banger that we needed.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I know that she's a high up, and I've seen her name before. Victoria Alonso just left Marvel, which like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I think she was, I've read things of her being like Feige's like right hand
She was there since the first Iron Man. That's the thing. She's OG when it comes to the MCU, when it comes to being like the people behind the scenes and stuff. So she's been there for a hot minute. The thing is, though, there's all these conflicting stories all over the place about whether she was mean to some of the VFX people, she was a pain in the butt to work with, and all these other things. I think there's a combination of different rumors and facts that are like really the truth in the middle right here. I think also keeping in mind the way that Ant-Man did and performed in the box office, I think has a lot to do with it too. But a lot of this stuff gets figured out well in advance before the public really figures it out or the trades write about it. So, but I still do think like some of that did factor in.
Yeah, and I'm sure like maybe after she's gone, maybe we might hear some things leak out as well.
Oh, that's going to
Or
happen. Hands down.
yeah,
Somebody's going to talk, like that stuff doesn't stay a secret forever. And with all the big changes happening with Marvel and really Disney, I don't think it's just Marvel. I think it's Disney, with
hmm
all the other crazy stuff that's happened since the beginning of this year, which was really the fallout from the end of last year, like that.
yep,
I think we're going to get even more. Like there's some crazy things going on. And the fact we're getting less Marvel projects, or at least things are getting spread out and delayed and such. I think there's a lot happening.
yeah, yeah, and that's why I follow the news of Disney as a whole closely, just because it has that trickle down effect on Marvel. It has it on Star Wars, like
Yeah.
all those future projects. I mean, Willow, they just cut that show
Oh
after
yeah,
one
Willow was
season.
horrible. I reviewed Willow.
Yeah,
And I wanted to like Willow because I'm not a big fan of the original movie, but I understand its charm and its appeal to that generation, the nostalgia of it. And
hmm
it's like, okay, here's another thing that maybe they could work with like that, but it just wasn't interesting. It just wasn't fun to watch. Like the problem is with some of these projects, and especially Willow, there comes a point where the writing, somewhere in the writer's room or a group of people in the writer's room, they start putting down things that are like being patronizing to the audience, that are talking down to the audience or kind of beating you over the head with something. And it's
hmm
like, look, we're down with whatever story you want to tell us, but at least tell us a story we can enjoy and get behind, or at least be insightful with us. Don't try to preach to people. And I felt like Willow was one of those projects that was like that. She-Hulk was like that, especially towards
yeah.
the end, which it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I get like some of the conversations around it, but at the end of the day, a lot of people that buy into Disney Plus and buy into Disney or Marvel or whatever else, they're buying in for great stories that they want to enjoy. They don't want to get like the frustration of watching these things and then just come out like all upset because whatever happened.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can see that, and it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't even know that it needs to be less is more sometimes. I just think that the writing of stuff just needs to be good
Needs to
pretty
be
much,
better.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like I mean, there's things. It's like I've been pretty outspoken on this show about how I felt about the Kenobi series. I thought it could have
That's
been
another one.
better. Yeah,
That's one that was a layup. Like, let's be there was no, I think we talked about it even on the show before. Like, we were all hyped for this show.
yep,
And it's like the product we got
yep,
with that, outside of it being focused on one character that really it shouldn't have been focused on, the quality of how that show was filmed and shot and just like put together. The thing was slapping with the stormtrooper helmets, like that would never happen in a John Favreau or a Dave Filoni joint. Like, to be honest with you, like, I understand they're all saying like everybody's working together, everybody oversees stuff, but let's be real here. Like, come on, like there's little things like that that I feel like really there needs to be a little bit more scrutinizing when it comes to like giving like the look over of quality for some of these projects, and that's a prime example of that.
yep, yeah, and that's why it's like I almost feel bad because it's like I think whenever it even, and this is just me in my opinion when it comes to Ant-Man. I always thought Ant-Man was a fun addition when he was moved in with the OG Avengers squad.
Yeah, me
Like
too. I agree.
I enjoyed his movies. You know what I mean? And I thought he
Mhm.
was a fun character. But now, like, I almost feel like they're putting Ant-Man at like, because Ant-Man made its money. It's not like it was a flop, I don't think, but I think they wanted it to make
I don't
more
think it was
money.
a great hit though. Like, the thing is,
Yeah.
what they're doing is because of what happened with Phase 4. Again, Phase 4 is the fallout of everything that happened after Endgame, because obviously Endgame was the big like gigantic splash that was like the big like ending to 10 years of Marvel films, which is awesome. It was amazing. But after that, where
Yep.
do you go? Who are the heroes that now you're going to big up? Who's going to be the OGs now that are going to bring in the new generation? Because now you don't have Captain America,
Yep.
you don't have Iron Man, you technically don't have Black Widow, you technically don't have Thor, at least what we knew as Thor. We got a new Thor right now, which a lot of people are not feeling. You don't have the Hulk at this point because
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff going on with the Hulk. I mean, who do you got left? I mean, you got Falcon, who's now become Captain America, which comes with its own set of problems. Like, I like Sam Wilson as Captain America. I think that while I would have given the shield to Bucky, I understand why Sam got it. And I was down with that because it was coming from Cap at the end of Endgame. But
hmm
like, look at what happened with Falcon and the Winter Soldier with that whole show. Like, a lot of people really weren't feeling that as much as it was fun in some cases. A lot of people also weren't feeling what happened with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, what happened to Wanda, and the way that film turned out, which was
Yeah.
really, wasn't really a Marvel film. It was more, I forgot the director's name. Oh my God, I should know this. Made Evil Dead, Sam Raimi. It was a Sam Raimi film.
Yeah, same Raimi.
It was a Sam Raimi film, and a lot of people just weren't feeling that. She-Hulk, forget it. Like that should have been their version of Deadpool before getting Deadpool back. It's like a lot of things where I feel like going into this phase where a lot of people are just not feeling a lot of the new heroes they're trying to big up or trying to present there. And there's that whole disconnect, not just with the bigger storytelling, but also just the idea of like, I'm putting all this time and energy as a fan, and I'm feeling like I'm getting a lot of disappointment or things that are just not doing it for me. Like the first like 3 up to 4 phases.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's like, stuff feels like they're putting it out just to say they are. And it's like, there should be excitement to think, man, I'm going to see this guy probably in theaters or this character in the theaters at one point. And it's like, I don't know. Some of the shows just sometimes feel like they're just doing it just to do it. Like
now in all fairness, though, we should say is that they still get a lot of hype when a new Marvel project comes out. Because granted, Ant-Man's not going to do Endgame numbers. It's not going to do Captain America numbers. It's not going to do Iron Man numbers, but you're still more than likely going to get a lot of people in the seat to go check it out because it's part of the MCU. You can say the same thing about a lot of the Disney Plus projects and all these series and stuff, even the one-offs, the one-shots, the whole Werewolf by Night and everything else like that. People were still excited about that. And that's the one thing that you could say about the MCU now with all the stuff that we criticize with it, that it still has that Star Wars doesn't really have technically right now, or at least it's in danger of like being like, looked at differently. And you can say the same thing about DC that DC doesn't have like whatsoever at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why DC made those changes. And there's no doubt that Disney and Lucasfilm and Marvel saw what happened with DC, and they probably want to get ahead of the curve if they ever feel like they're going down that road. So maybe that's a sign of something with Alonso leaving. Maybe it is because of those VFX things, because we've been seeing those rumors for how long now?
Yeah, that's been a while, like bubbling up, because again, between Wakanda Forever, between what happened with Ant-Man, between what happened with Multiverse of Madness, I heard about it a little bit. And then also the business stuff behind the scenes. That was the other thing too, is like, they're overworking them. So that's why the quality is dipping down a little bit. That's really a big deal for a lot of people. And I think that's only going to grow, over time until now with all this stuff like changing up. So I think maybe her going and whoever they bring in might really make things a little bit better. At least here's hoping, fingers crossed. And also the delaying of some of the projects. Remember, they spread out a lot of their scheduling compared to what they originally had.
Yep. And that's one thing that as a Star Wars fan, you're always able to look at Marvel and be like, see, look at what they're doing. Why can't we do that? Why can't we figure this out? Right? That continuity. But
why can't we get projects done? That's a start. Like, seriously.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the shows go, but the movies, I mean, the rumors start and then they just fade into darkness.
Well, with Lucasfilm, I'm pretty sure you're probably going to bring this up too, but the whole thing going on with the Acolyte, the whole suing the person that was going to work on it or worked on it for a brief bit and now doing a lawsuit. I think stuff like that Lucasfilm does not need that right now. Granted with everything that's happened up to this point. And then now going into Star Wars Celebration soon, like that is stuff they do not need.
No, absolutely. It's like, I mean, there was rumors that a movie would be announced at Celebration this year. It's
probably gonna be Taika's. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be the official unveiling of Taika Waititi's movie. That's what I thought it was gonna be, more than likely. Because I know, again, we're not getting Rogue Squadron. We could say at this point, Rogue Squadron is done. That movie's never getting made. That's done. The Old Republic movie that's been like rumored around for a while. That's the other one that people kept mentioning and stuff. But again, like, I wrote about it on Clownfish where there's like when all those cancellations happens. Oh, the Kevin Feige movie. That was the other one that got dropped. And it's like, Kevin, how can you not want to work with the best producer in Hollywood right now over the last like decade? Like that's the man right there. And you can't figure out a way to work with that guy or at least get something out with him. Now, granted, he's still doing stuff with the MCU. He's probably got a lot on his plate right now. He's got a lot of problems to deal with. But if I'm over at Lucasfilm and I'm making the calls and stuff, why would I let that die? Unless like that thing has been like, meandering for like the longest time, which is probably the case with a lot of these things.
Yep. Yeah. I just feel like they come up as an idea. You hear some rumors, then you start to hear there's problems, and then maybe like a year later you hear it's dead. So
well, I think they announced things way too early. That's a Kathleen Kennedy problem, it seems like. And because I think at one point it was like maybe a month or two ago where some story came out. It was like, listen, Disney, or at least the higher ups at Disney above her, were like, listen, stop announcing projects, stop talking about stuff unless you're actually going to do it. And I think that was definitely related to a lot of this stuff, especially with Kevin Feige's film, especially with Patty Jenkins's Rogue Squadron film. That's heartbreaking too, because they did a whole campaign for that. She did that whole ad basically
Yep.
at Star Wars Celebration. It's like that's a massive L to take.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, you talk to any Star Wars fan about, everyone saw that Rogue Squadron, hype, I'll call it like a little hype trailer
Hype
basically,
machine, yeah.
because it's like, oh wow, this is happening. I mean, she got in the freaking X-wing and took off, and you're just
She
like,
was
all
on
right.
camera.
Yeah.
What is it? Kathleen Kennedy was like, yeah, this is happening. So it's like,
Yep.
if you can't even take at face value the word of the head of Lucasfilm, the person where the buck stops with them, where movies are happening, she says movies are happening. And now like sometime afterwards, they're not. Like, can you really take a lot of their word in good faith like
Yeah.
that? That's a big problem. That's a big problem for Lucasfilm right now that they have to address, or at least quell people's fears going into Star Wars Celebration by either showing this movie from Taika or at least talking about it, because I don't think that movie's coming out anytime soon. They keep saying like it's over the horizon. I was like, nah, it doesn't feel like that, because Taika Waititi's busy doing other movies
Yep.
besides this.
Yeah.
If anything, he should be devoting his entire time to Star Wars because it's Star Wars and it'd probably make a huge splash for him. But he's got other stuff he's doing, which sounds like it's more of a short thing than this. And the same thing with whatever that other was it Old Republic, movie might have been, or whatever it
Mhm.
might. Again, it's hard to talk about because you don't fully know what it is.
It's always hard too when Taika like gives a quote on working on the Star Wars movie, because you can't tell if he's joking around or not, because he's
Yeah,
a
he should
quirky
not
dude.
talk. Real
Yeah.
talk. Like he should not say. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's me. Maybe you feel the same way. Maybe the listeners right now feel the same way. What is it with either some of these Hollywood, celebrities, whether they're behind the camera or in front of the camera, where they just don't know when to stop talking, and
Yeah.
they keep open. I know James Gunn is going through that lately. I think James Gunn has talked way too much as a head of DC and stuff. There's some points where he just needed to shut the hell up and
Yeah.
not say a damn thing, because look, Ben Affleck made him look like a fool just not too long ago. He was like, yeah, we're going to work with Ben Affleck at one point. He's excited to work. And Ben Affleck was like, no, I'm not. Like, you can't be having things like that happen as the head of a studio. And I feel like with Kathleen Kennedy, she has a big problem with that for a while, with all these movies getting canceled or getting kind of just like put on the shelf.
Yep.
That's a shame.
Yeah, and it's like, and there's always been these rumors of creative freedom and everything when it comes to Lucasfilm and what they let the people do or not, which, like, I read a thing fairly recently that at one point Favreau told her like, leave us alone, or I'm not going to do your
I don't know if
show,
that's true
basically.
though. Like, I don't know if a lot of those types of things, because I've seen similar reports and things shared around on social media or reported in various outlets. Sometimes not always the most credible and stuff, but I even with some of the more bigger outlets that get good scoops and stuff, I don't think I fully believe that, because
Yeah.
I think that there is like a level of breathing room for projects like these. But I think that one of the bigger problems with Lucasfilm is that they're probably a little bit too tight gripped with a lot of this stuff, with
Yeah.
different things, because it just seems like it's weird because John Favreau and Dave Filoni and stuff, more often than not, their stuff works and people like it and it
Hmm.
is a hit and stuff. Mandalorian being the biggest one like that, and also elements of like Clone Wars or Rebels or whatever else and such. But like all these other projects, it's, again, outside of the numbered movies, the sequel trilogy and such, a lot of those other things have always had a problem where it felt like there was too many cooks in the kitchen, or there was too many things going on that were just allowed to be a certain way that probably was like the worst choice that they could have done.
Yeah.
Either like certain management or certain things that were changed because upper management wanted it to happen like that, and the result was just like not good.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like we're gonna hit on Mando and a lot of Star Wars stuff soon too. But this is making me now think of something else that you were recently talking about, was gaming movies. You just
Yeah.
had a JJ's One Man Pod where you were talking about some gaming movies and some
Mhm.
of the successes going on with games
Yeah.
being
The Last of
adapted.
Us, the biggest one right now.
Yeah, yeah. I found that interesting because I've been seeing that. I've been watching that from afar happen, and I'm like, these guys are making some moves right now. Like Sonic is so high for kids right now. Like kids
Mhm.
love Sonic.
And they're about to love Mario too. Mario's
Yep.
coming out next month, and that's a big deal. especially
Yeah.
for Nintendo. Like they're really going in as far as like being a part and supporting that movie stuff,
Mhm.
because it's very different from them. Remember, they got burnt bad back in like the late 80s, early 90s with
Yep.
this, with the Mario Brothers movie, and that's understandable. But what's there to their benefit now is that we're in an environment where we actually have the technology and we have the minds to be behind these projects to make them good and have reverence for the source material, which is what I was saying in the podcast. Because The Last of Us, you have Neil Druckmann behind it, who's working with all those people and people he's worked with on the games. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. You've had Sonic, which, even though it's not a true adaptation of the Sonic games, it still is the essence of Sonic. And at least it's fun and giving something that's good for the audience that cares about Sonic in some way. You had Mortal Kombat not too long ago, the new Mortal Kombat, the reboot, which some people criticize that movie, and I understand it, but really it's still the essence of that franchise. It's mature. It's not a garbage like PG-13 take on it. You know, it's
Yeah.
much R-rated, blood and guts, it's fatalities, it's the whole thing. It's Mortal Kombat like
Yep.
that. And there's others coming down the line, which is good, because with all these films, even you could even throw in Uncharted in there. I know a lot of people had issues with Uncharted, and I get it, but for what it was still a fun movie to watch. It wasn't a trash like game adaptation. It wasn't Street Fighter the movie. It
Mhm.
wasn't Double Dragon. Like that's my point. So we have at least, come to a point now where I think we're going to start entering that golden era of where we're going to get these adaptations of like really good video game live action series or movies, or animated live action series or movies. That's going to be dope, because we got God of War coming. We got Ghost of Tsushima coming. We got many others that are going to be coming down. There's talk about obviously the Metal Gear Solid movie, which has been talked about for ages, but Oscar Isaac is part of that. Like that's a big deal. Like this is good. This is good right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I relate it. When I was hearing you talk about that stuff, I relate it directly back to Disney. And I actually mentioned to my wife, because I have a 6-year-old, and
Mhm.
I said, name one thing Disney's doing that's as big for him as Sonic and Mario and everything is right now. Because his hype on Mario is out of control, and so is mine. That's the fun part about it, is
Mhm.
kids can be excited just as much as we can be excited about it. Like, just
Yeah.
because we grew up on it. But Mario just has, I don't know. Mario has that. He's one of those characters that was created that's just an all-time character, that is a generational character. It doesn't matter how young or old you are, you can have fun with it.
Yeah, but
And
that part of that is due from the time that Mario was created. And same thing with Sonic too. They were made in a time where mascots were really an important thing for the games industry, because you could argue like Mario during the era of like that 80s section with the NES and even arcades, because all that stuff with the Famicom and everything else was so hot, and they needed to sell their consoles to families, the home consoles and stuff. So Mario obviously comes from that generation, comes from that era of people that have grown up now that have families at this point. And the same
yep.
thing with Sonic, because, with the 90s and the console wars and such. Right now, I think that we've gotten to a point, I want to say in the last decade or so. So maybe after PlayStation 2 era, where there's been so many times and instances and years where companies and different types of brands have tried to make franchises or make mascots that latch on in the same way as a Mario, as a Sonic, as a Crash Bandicoot, as a Donkey Kong, whatever else. And it hasn't always been that, because they haven't had that spark or that charm for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people. Again, it's part of it is the audience. A lot of it has to do with the timing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, speaking of game adaptations and movies, Disney should make a freaking Kingdom Hearts movie, man. Have they ever
Well,
thought about
they
doing that?
talked about a series for a longest time. Like there's a lot of things with that are like all over the place. The problem is that you have is that, one, how are you going to get people behind the idea and the story and the plot? Normal people. I'm talking about normal people now. I'm not talking about people that play Kingdom Hearts or anybody that plays video games. I'm talking about the normal person who's not crazy and who's
Yeah.
not wild, right? So how are you going to get them to understand what this series is about? If they're not into Disney that deep, other than just watching the movies, they're not caring about the lore of Disney movies and stuff. If they're not playing Final Fantasy or anything Square Enix and stuff, how are you going to get them to relate to that or get them interested in that? I don't think you could really tell it in the same way like you do a lot of these animated cartoons and stuff, because their lore and their background story and stuff a lot more simpler, a lot more easy to understand and digest than Kingdom Hearts. Because I don't even think Kingdom Hearts understands what it's doing sometimes. I think Tetsuya Nomura is winging it, and he's lost. Even he needs like an encyclopedia for his own series, because it's just so crazy. But even then, I think it's also a licensing nightmare to get something like
Oh
that like
yeah,
to
you would
work,
have to put
because
all those in
between
it.
all the Square Enix stuff, between all the Disney stuff, like that's a crazy monumental task, which I don't think can work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could make money if you advertise the fact that you would bring back some characters like, you could have like where the first game you had Hercules and like some of those IPs that Disney has, like,
Yeah, the easiest ones to get for Disney. I
yeah.
mean, because you have to use the main core cast, which is Sora, Donald, and Goofy, like
Hmm.
that. This is like the premise of what originally was going to be a series for Disney Channel way back when, like not even before Disney Plus, but it was like an animated thing that they were going to do, and there was this animatic that was floating around and stuff, which I still don't fully believe was real, or at least fully believe that it was actually a legit pitch and stuff. But some people did. But if you go off that premise, I mean, I can understand Kingdom Hearts maybe being a series, but then what? You're going to have like 2, 3 seasons devoted to the first game, because that first game is like 40 plus hours almost. At
Yeah,
least it can get up there. Maybe not 40 plus hours, but it's a long time with a lot of convoluted plot all over the place that just is pretty much retelling the Disney movies of what they were, that they were based on.
absolutely. Yeah. So it's a fun game. And I think that would be like, I don't know. I think it would work.
As
But
someone who has covered that series since the beginning, literally, because I was
oh, I
there
know
since day one,
that like the back of
I
your
can tell
hand.
you right now, even I am confused at this stuff looking at it. And I got to talk to some of these people that made this thing, and even they're confused. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Keyblade on your wall right there,
I
man.
have
I see.
two. I
Yeah,
have
you
two
got two
keyblades, and I'm still
Keyblades.
confused. Like, I have in my collection. You can't see it here, but I have a couple of the games signed by some of the voice actors and stuff, and even they're confused about their characters sometimes. Like, I got the voice Richard Epcar. He's a really big voice actor. He does Raiden in Mortal Kombat and a lot of other voices, but he's Ansem in the Kingdom Hearts series, and he sometimes like he just rolls with it, just says whatever they want him to say and stuff. And even he's like a little bit like lost on this series sometimes.
Dude, that's freaking great. So while we're on the topic of gaming, let's get into let's get into this little trailer that came out
Yeah.
today. We got a little Jedi Survivor
Mm-hmm.
action today, and what was that? Was that like a 2 minute 20-second trailer or something like
It was
that?
like a couple minutes. It was a story trailer, so it's not a gameplay showcase. It's kind of like the previous one, which was the reveal trailer. This one gives us a little bit more story tidbits, but it doesn't reveal a lot. It teases and like shows a little bit, which a lot of people could pick and pull stuff. And funny enough, because the timing's so convenient, StarWars.com had a top 5 things that they notice, quote unquote, in the trailer. It was like, basically, guys, if you can't see it, here's what you need that you got to get excited about. But it
Yeah.
was good stuff. We got a little bit of the time frame that this game takes place. We got a little bit of insight of where some of the characters are without knowing the full context. We got a couple more reveals of some of those mysterious characters. We don't know who they are, which being that High Republic Jedi that's in there, or at least a Jedi that's said by some people to be part of the High Republic. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because StarWars.com said that themselves. So it's pretty much confirmed that that Jedi is part of the High Republic, or at least from that era. And also new planets going to Coruscant, which seems pretty cool, and a couple other places we just don't know yet. At least they haven't said. So a lot of
Yeah.
good details in there. But again, I'm excited for the game. I'm really hyped up to play it whenever it comes out next month.
Yeah, new Star Wars is loving them some Coruscant lately. We're getting a
Yeah,
lot of Coruscant action these
big
last
time.
couple shows. Really, it's
Mhm.
they're showing it off.
We
I
like
mean, we
Coruscant out here. Coruscant's dope.
absolutely. We went there in Kenobi. We went there in Andor. We've
And
gone there
Mando.
now in Mando this
Yeah.
past week.
And Rebels. We've gone to
Yeah.
Coruscant before. Bad Batch. We went to Coruscant for a bit, for a
Yep.
tiny bit, literally.
Yeah. No, they're really using it, and you know what? It's always intriguing every time it's on to me. There's something always just interesting about that planet. Every time they go there, you see a different layer to it, a different angle of it.
More fan service. Like
Yeah.
again, the music there. I mean, with the recent, we'll talk about it later, but like the recent stuff with Mando, there was a lot of fan service there, even with the music, which I thought
Oh
was
yeah.
interesting. Like the only problem is though, is that every time we go to these places and stuff, I don't want it the fan service just to be fan service for the sake of just being there. Like at least if you're gonna do that, at least have a purpose in some way, even if it's a thematic thing like that.
Yeah.
But at least with Jedi Fallen Order, at least we're gonna be roaming in Coruscant, it seems like, which
Yeah.
sounds awesome. But again, I'm curious more about like how narratively that fits into what's going on, because the game takes place 5 years after the previous game. So this is 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, from
Okay.
what we know. This is around the same time frame as Kenobi, that when those events are going down.
Okay. And that's where it's going to get interesting is, are they going to try to make the galaxy a little smaller and tie in some of the stuff, like maybe just like hear rumors of something going on from the Kenobi series or whatever. I mean, maybe even have Cal, like, I don't know. Maybe it would be crazy if Kenobi somehow was seen in the game. I
They
don't
would have
know
to
if
make it
that.
make sense, because
Yeah.
even just canon wise, Like it would not make sense for them to meet like that.
It would
Because considering what we know now after having seen Kenobi and knowing that where Kenobi ends in relation to A New Hope and stuff, they have to really explain this and make it make sense and fit within this canon. Because if I had it my way, like again, just wishful thinking, I would never have him meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe have like archives or something in the game where you gather where there's like reports of it, because obviously the Empire and Vader really at this time frame, he's looking for Kenobi. Like he has the events of Obi-Wan technically haven't happened yet. At least that's what I'm gathering. Again, we don't know exactly where it falls, and we'll know once we play the game. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if like, Cal's moving around and there's like some sort of galactic report or news report that says like, oh, there's the Empire's looking for this vigilante known as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Or something
And
like
they
that.
just
Something
show
like
like
something
that hollow.
cheesy or randomly, or even if you find like a data pad or something that's part of like, the archives that you get. If you remember from the previous Jedi game or Jedi Fallen Order, you have those archives that have like little history or little bestiary stuff that could like explain certain things. Maybe get like a description in there that Cal runs into someone that has like a report or something with that. That would make more sense to me when fitting into canon, and also respecting the events of what's going on with the canon, and while still being able to maintain your own story to give us something brand new.
No, I agree. And there was a video I watched on some of the new gameplay on this where it's like you can get a long blade lightsaber where it's like heavier.
There's a lot of forms.
Yeah, there is some crazy stuff when it comes to the fight controls in this that just really look awesome. It looks like they're going to use the Force and lightsaber fighting like in some different
there's
ways.
Even more they didn't show, because there was even a thing that came up where you're going to have a style. There's multiple forms. There's the single form, the single blade, stuff, which is what we see Cal use. We have the dual blades. Okay. We have that cross guard, which is awesome. Okay. Which is the one that they showcase where it's basically the slowest, but it's the most damaging of the forms. And then there's one that they haven't really shown that he actually has a blaster. So you have a lightsaber in one hand, which is probably his left hand, and then you have your blaster in your right to use that. But it's, from what I read, it's supposed to be for long distance stuff. So like if he's going up against snipers or something, block your shots with the lightsaber and then shoot with the blaster itself. So there seems like there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. Maybe you could switch between them in various points, like what you had in the original game, which is cool.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Also the dual, the staff, the double bladed lightsaber. So that was the other one. So 5 forms. There you go. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's why it's fun, because to me it's like I would switch from dual lightsaber to single in the game. It's like I don't know. I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna go back to single for a little bit, and it felt like a different game when I was playing with the single than the double. And it's like I would go back and forth because it's like you really can enjoy the best of both worlds in it,
and get perks against certain enemies too. Because remember, like the dual bladed lightsaber, the double bladed one is was it good for crowd control? While the other one is mostly against like single enemies if you're like dueling. And then the other one that they had before is like, or at least what they're saying, the dual blades or even the crossguard is like for different types of enemies. Like if you're going up against bosses that are slow, you're going to want to obviously use the big crossguard one, because like you might have slow startup and stuff, but it's going to deal a lot of damage. That plays almost exactly like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Same idea with some of these like, variations of the combat.
Yeah, like great sword style essentially, which is kind of cool. I guess you just have like a little adjustment on your lightsaber where it just like makes it longer. You just twist the knob and then it gets a little longer.
Like it would be like either at the meditation points or like the little like, desk or
different
tables
hilts.
Where you could actually change up the hilt and customize it. Because I know you're going to be able to do that. And the same thing with your gear. You're going to be able to change Cal's outfit and stuff a little bit more so than the ponchos from the previous game. But I wouldn't be surprised if like with that, you can maybe equip like maybe 2 or 3 different forms of lightsaber combat and then switch between them in combat while you're fighting, which sounds like it's going to be dope. And the other thing too, we should mention allies in combat, because we got that, was it that bounty hunter? I can't remember his name at the moment. I was writing about it earlier today too, but the random bounty hunter dude that we run into, he's in the trailer. I just can't remember his name. But you also get to team up with Marin, which seems like that's interesting. Now, I'm curious if there's a third ally. I would not be surprised if there's another ally that we could use in combat that we just haven't seen yet. Maybe it's that Jedi from the High Republic at some point that, whatever goes on with him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of excitement for this game because it's like that one, when it came out, was like kind of a pleasant surprise for me. As far as like adventure type story mode games go, like I just enjoyed it, and I'm gonna get a replay in of it pretty soon. I'm gonna try to, which I haven't even freaking finished Hogwarts yet. So for me to
Oh
go
man, you
back
got to
to a
finish that.
replay,
You got to
for
finish
me to
that
go back
first.
to a
It's new.
replay of Fallen Order and then not finish Hogwarts is a problem.
You can knock out Fallen Order in like a weekend. Like
I know.
you like a Friday, Saturday, you probably be done by Sunday afternoon. Or
I
Sunday
know that
evening.
I'm going to run into puzzles that are going to piss me off in that game
Oh
again
yeah,
too.
well
Because
in Fallen Order, yeah, there's that whole section with the damn rolling giant balls. You have to use the force to push them.
dude,
Like
that
it's
was
that's the
wild.
only section that the whole momentum of the game like slows down.
Yeah, I think there was like 3 levels of that one, and you had to send the one ball into like the air thing to shoot it up and
Yep.
everything, dude.
Yep.
You're bringing
Now,
back
here's the
memories
cool
of
thing
that one.
about this, though. In Survivor, there's going to be challenge dungeons that are puzzles, but they won't be part of like some of the other stuff. Those are optional, which I like. Keep it
Yeah,
focused on the story, keep it focused on the combat, because I think that's where a lot of people are coming to this from. The puzzles, like things where it's a little bit more clever using the force and stuff, that kind of reminds me of Breath of the Wilds, where you actually have these like, optional like dungeon areas that you don't need to do necessarily. But if you do them, you get like other perks and such.
yeah. So it's up to the user then. It's like, if you're not going to be sitting there like, I want to just continue this story and I can't figure out this freaking ball level or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
You could just be like, excuse me, you could just be like, oh, I'll go try that maybe, or you just move past it and say I'll go back later in the game and mess with
Exactly.
those. So no, that's exciting. I mean, I'm hyped for it. Also, one thing I noticed too, I actually wrote this down, was they were talking about like a hideaway and a place worth fighting for. Like
Mhm.
I wrote those lines down. It looked like almost like a freaking meteor on like the hologram
Like
that they were
Paulus
looking
Massa or
for.
something, like something
Yeah.
random like that. Like the funny thing is, I've seen a couple people talk about this, ever since the trailer came out. They were saying that maybe it's in the Outer Rim or in like the whole section where, if you remember, there was this rumor going around for a bit that whatever the next movies or other projects going to be post sequel trilogy, it's going to be about this whole other section. Or during the Mandalorian time frame when Thrawn and stuff starts to come in, it's going to be about this whole other section of the galaxy that's going on when all the other stuff that we know from the movies is happening. But it's this whole other section that we'd never explored before in the Outer Rim, or like the uncharted area of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I could understand maybe getting into stuff like that. It makes sense. But I feel like that's probably not what they're doing. They're probably going to another location within the galaxy we know that's close to like all the planets that we know, just a place that we haven't explored yet, or at least
Yeah.
haven't really gone into. Because there's planets that are from like legend stuff that we know of that were probably even in Knights of the Old Republic that we haven't really explored in canon in like a current stuff. I know, what was it? I can't remember. It's not Braca. The planet that you go to for the lightsabers, for the lightsaber crystals. Oh my god, the kyber crystals. I can't remember the name at the moment. I'm
Oh
blanking out.
damn.
It's in Fallen Order too, but like that planet that Cal goes to before that game and before then, I think the only place I can remember you going to it in was in Knights of the Old Republic or some other random thing. But that was like the first one in canon that you actually go to and you actually see it. And besides the show and the TV series and stuff.
And
But
this
like
is the planet that's rumored that they turned into Star Killer Base or whatever, right?
exactly,
Okay, I
exactly.
can't think
Like
of the
like
damn name of
imagine
that.
if they pulled another planet from like Knights of the Old Republic or like any other class or the Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy games, some other planet or place that we go to, like Taurus, the planet Taurus or whatever, that we could just go to and just do stuff there. But it's within the galaxy. We just haven't really seen it in this point, in the canon.
Yeah. So yeah, I trust them to give us good story stuff. There wasn't really much with the first game where I was just like, this is losing me, or like, this isn't necessary. I just thought the story was really good in it, which
Yeah.
I need a refresher on it. There's no
I
doubt
have
about
I
it.
have a lot of faith in it because I knew someone who was one of the narrative designers on the game on Jedi Survivor, and I couldn't say it for like the longest time because I didn't want to get hounded and stuff. But I got a lot of faith in it because they look like they did a lot of great work with Fallen Order. I was very pleased with it, because I always had this thing against the Soulsborne genre because I just don't think that those games by design are really meant to be all that fun. They're really meant to be frustrating and challenging. But with this one, they actually got me into it where it was like I was kind of lightening up a little bit on the genre and having fun with it. That was the best thing, and it was really because of the story because I wanted to see it through. So with this one, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm expecting good things. I'm
Yeah.
not worried about it whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree. So we hit on that. Let's go into some of the Star Wars stuff going on right now that we got
Yeah.
going on TV. We haven't talked to you about Mando so far.
Mhm.
So let's talk about what you're liking about the whole series so far, and then we'll go into the last episode. So what
So
do
yeah,
you think is so far?
season 3. So first 2 episodes, I actually liked them. I didn't think they were bad. So a lot of people kept saying that that first episode especially was bad. I didn't think it was bad. I understood it, and the way I got after seeing the second episode, it was like a part one, part two. That's really what it was like. And if anything, they should have released both of those episodes together. That would have made much more sense to me because you got part one, part two of that whole section. The other thing too is that it's good seeing Bo-Katan and Mando working together like that. Those two are definitely looking like they're going to be partners or something by the time that this season ends, because they look good together. At least they're playing off of each other, or at least, the spirituality that Din Djarin has it with his Mandalorian culture is starting to rub off a little bit on Bo-Katan, in some way, with what she's known, obviously being a character we've seen in Rebels and all these other places of what Mandalorians are like and what's happened to her. Because remember when she was going to the planet with Grogu, she was like pretty much talking to him about like what it used to be like and like her experience and her point of view of stuff, and compared to what it is now. I think that tease by the time we got to episode 3, which we'll get into in a bit, but that tease going into episode 3, I think was pretty interesting with the people that were coming after them. So, but as far as like the ending of like seeing the mythosaur, seeing all the way that the whole planet has just been like completely like desolate. There's still life there, and it's cool seeing some of those creatures that we've seen in some of the animated shows. But like this is like what I like about Star Wars when it's intriguing. Like it could have slower moments like that and still be intriguing, but not be a drag. Which again, we'll get into now, I guess.
Which takes us to episode 3. Now I know I like kind of enjoyed it, and then like also in the back of my mind I do think like we're halfway, or no, this is episode 4 actually that just happened, was it? Or no, are we going to that was
3.
episode 3. Okay.
Yeah, we're going into
episode 4 this week. So yeah, episode 3 definitely was not totally a Mando story, and we have 8 episodes of this show, which like I can't help but to think that in the back of my mind, where I'm like, all right, this has got to be important if they spent almost
yeah, right,
however much time on it they did. It was a 56-minute episode, and I'd say they probably spent at least 46 minutes of the episode on Coruscant following Dr. Pershing. So I saw some of your thoughts of it on Twitter. What did you think about this episode?
So I'll tell you right now, after all that, because my biggest problem with this episode was that entire section, because I felt like this is clearly the stuff from Andor and it is not working for me. Because I'm watching The Mandalorian. I get it. It's world building. It's a slower pace. It's trying to build up these characters and other stuff and set things up. I get it. I've seen all these excuses from a lot of people. I saw a lot of excuses from John Campea specifically about this, because he really likes Andor and he digs a lot of that stuff. And I get it. The problem is that none of this was fun to watch. None of this was interesting, wasn't intriguing. It was a drag. It was boring. I felt like, this was so out of place with this show, because the pacing of Mando episodes, it's not what Andor is. It's night and day. Clearly, now you could see them side by side. It's night and day. And I'm not opposed to seeing slower scenes and slower buildups and stuff. We have House of the Dragon, which is a perfect example. The differences with that show and what was happening with Andor is that even in the slower moments of House of the Dragon, it still felt like action was happening. It still felt like, even with the dialogue, the slow buildups and stuff, you felt like you were going someplace and you felt like things were moving and happening, and you were along with this slow ride. You were there creeping with the characters as they were creeping before things popped off. Yep. I don't feel that with Andor. I definitely didn't feel that with this episode. And like, I get it. And there was the whole big reveal at the end that was like a big double cross with Dr. Pershing, or at least, what is it, that officer? I can't remember her name.
I'm forgetting her name too.
Even so, I can't even remember her name, but like, that person, because we've seen her before in previous Mando episodes, but like, I get it. What they were trying to do is probably setting up stuff with cloning. They're really harping and hammering down this whole idea of cloning with us, but they're also hammering down those, like, the Empire, or at least the remnants of the Empire, are still at work here, despite the New Republic being the thing. They're getting a little bit too comfortable, and they're kind of being a little bit too loose with stuff, which is why I think we still had that Imperial Star Destroyer with all those TIE fighters that were coming after Mando and Bo-Katan, which I thought it was so jarring to turn away from that, to cut away from that, to go to this whole story. Still in the back of my mind that entire time was like, yo, what happened to Bo-Katan and Mando? Like, they jumped to hyperspace. Now what? Like, exactly. They got away, but like, okay. And it wasn't until the end of the episode, it was like, okay, they went to those other Mandalorians with the armor that, we saw Mando go to originally at the start of the season. But the point was, I had to go through 46 or 40 something minutes of like this drag, to get back to the Mandalorian. It felt like, okay, we go through all this, now back to our regularly scheduled program. And it's like, come on, like, I'm down for Mando. I'm down for anything Star Wars, but you got to give me something. And I feel like while there's a lot of people right now saying that this was good, this was Star Wars maturing and stuff, I totally disagree, because Star Wars, more than anything else, especially classic Star Wars that everybody likes to go to and likes to reference and stuff, it was exciting to watch, even in the slower moments. And this was not exciting to watch. This was not it for Mando for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they try to do, because as you're saying, it was very different from what we're used to with Mando. It was Andor style, which was funny because Brent was saying like there's a lot of Mando fans out there who didn't like Andor who are going to say this was good, and he was like, this was no different than Andor. And yeah, you're definitely.
I'll tell you right. I can tell you right now, as someone, because I was part of Star Wars Theory's watch party. I was watching with him on the screen. I saw the chat and the reactions to it. Now, granted, chat is not always a good barometer for like the reactions of people, but you pair that up with the reactions on social media, it's really only a small sect of people that are really defending this stuff really hard and really defending Andor's approach to Star Wars storytelling really super hard. And I get it. I understand why. I understand that this is them trying to be a little bit more high-minded with Star Wars, but I don't think you need to be high-minded with Star Wars in order to be good. You just have to be exciting and interesting and intriguing to watch. And it's like, you know, this, I'll tell you right now, this whole section with this episode better have gone someplace with a big payoff by the end of this actual season, or I'm going to be super pissed, because it's like, there's no reason for this to be here. Now, the other thing too, we shouldn't mention, because I saw this talked about on social media and mentioned in a few other spots, this could also be some of the fallout from the Rangers of the New Republic. Now, I could see that, but even so, I still feel like if that's the case, what does this really have to do with what's going on with Mando's story and Grogu and everything else with the Mandalorians? Because we go away from Mandalore and what was going on there right at the end of that chase, which the chase was awesome. I thought we were in it for like a great episode.
Oh my God, it was crazy.
I thought we were in. I thought we were going to have a 10 out of 10 up until that point. But like we go away from that and now we're back on Coruscant. I love going to Coruscant. I love the Easter eggs. I love the music, little nods to like Plagueis and the whole thing. But like, what is the point of this? Is it because we're just there? That's why we're getting that? Is it because you're trying to have a subtle theme or allusion to something else that's going on behind the scenes with this cloning stuff? Because outside of the stuff with Grogu that we got from Mando season 1 and 2, like that, what does any of these cloning things have to do with Din and Grogu? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you could say that the remnants or Moff Gideon's people were trying to clone Grogu or trying to get his blood and stuff. And, you know, they've talked about it, but like in the context of what we just saw, like, it just feels like this is out of nowhere. It's so random and so disjointed and disconnected from all this stuff. I really do hope this next episode or the next couple episodes, they really like start connecting these dots, because I don't think it's going to be good if they don't. And it's just there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I might be wrong, but I feel like I saw something that the next episode's like 36 minutes or 37 minutes.
Yeah, it's shorter, which I don't like that. They got to get more consistent, Lucasfilm specifically. They got to get more consistent with the length of these episodes, because you could tell The Last of Us almost nearly an hour every single episode. You could say the same thing about even Andor. And, you know, you could argue the quality of Andor every day, but at least they were consistent with longer episodes, you know, for the 6 episodes we had and stuff. You could even say the same thing about House of the Dragon, hour episodes, you know, or at least around the hour mark. So 50 minutes, give or take. Stuff.
Yeah, you know where you're getting.
36-minute stuff is it's silly.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what a rumor just came out about The Acolyte that just said every episode will be 1 hour long. Like they just said,
for their sake.
Yeah. Yeah, they just said it's automatic. Every episode, 1 hour. The same as Game of Thrones, which like we always know we're going to get that like 55 minutes or so out of it. But then every now and then you might get that like hour 15 or something like that, where you're like, oh, we're in.
Not 30 something minutes though. It's like, again, that's a Bad Batch episode. That's really what it is. And arguably, I mean, granted, this week's Bad Batch we'll talk about and stuff, but like arguably within that shorter time frame for the Bad Batch, you could get a lot more interesting storytelling than what we just got with this episode. Arguably, again, it's a very subjective, very perspective thing for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people within the small suspect of Star Wars fans that are defending this stuff, but I really don't think it's good. I really don't think it's going to work out in the long run for Star Wars fans, especially those that have been sticking with this stuff. Again, I'm getting up at like, or at least staying up to like 3 a.m. to watch these episodes as soon as they drop. If I feel like that every single episode, like I did with Andor, I'm going to check out, and I don't want that. Like, I don't think anybody wants that.
No, I agree. Where was I going with this? What was I thinking about? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank here. I had a great point.
That's how bad the episode was. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think we wait so long. We've waited so long for this too that you want every episode to count big time.
Yeah,
You know,
I want it to be
we
a
want to
banger.
see where you know, I think the whole thing with Mando is now is like, you know, we've had Moff Gideon technically. I mean, they mentioned Gideon in
Yeah,
this.
he's gonna be in the season. Like
Yeah.
he's already shot stuff, so we know he's coming at some
Yeah.
point. But it's like you would have expected a shot of him in that whole armada of people. It's like, oh, he probably broke out of the freaking Republic like prison or whatever. Because remember, he's in prison technically now. He was in a trial that they
Mhm.
mentioned.
Yeah, when they heard some banging on the ship, I was almost thinking like maybe Gideon's like already on the ship, like
Right?
hanging out, and she's
That would
working
that
with
would have been a
him.
cool reveal.
Yeah, that would have been perfect. But now where it ended, it's like, all right, I guess they're wiping his mind. I don't know if they're able to
Yeah, I wasn't
take.
even clear on that. Like, because that whole machine, they're trying to do these parallels as like the New Republic is not that far removed from the Empire, which I get. It's a very high mind thing, but that's all what Andor was about. Literally, that's like the whole thing is like things are just like really bad and how things are kind of like creeping into becoming a totalitarian state. It was a 1984 meets like Westworld meets Blade Runner, etc.
Yeah,
That's really what that show was, and that's what you kind of got these vibes here. But the problem is, though, is like again, that's not Mandalorian. That's not this part of the Star Wars galaxy and stuff. That's not this show. So I probably would be a little bit easier on it if, like what you said, that reveal in the ship and stuff before the double cross was Moff Gideon coming to meet her. Then I would have been like, okay, this sounds like it's going someplace again and
yeah,
stuff. But even then, at the very end, when he's getting his mind wiped and stuff, I felt like I can't tell if she's working for somebody else or she's working for the Republic or she was actually doing what she had told those people. Again, I'm very confused with it because I don't feel like the show makes it clear enough. And people could argue, like, okay, there's layers and stuff that you're not getting and such. But I feel like it should be at least clear enough what direction we're going in and where
yeah,
we're what our trajectory is going to be, like in
yeah.
general.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think that was their way of saying, like, this is what the new Republic is like. This is who's in charge. You could do it in probably a shorter and a bit more exciting way, I'll say, probably. Like
Mm.
at that episode, I was like kind of, I really enjoyed the Mando parts of that episode.
Yeah,
I'll
the
say like
beginning and the
those,
end was
yeah, like
great.
those were really good. I mean, Bo-Katan is now part of the creed or whatever. She,
There
this
might
is
be
the
some
way.
things going on with her though. Like I saw Star Wars theories like video about it, and I saw a couple other people talking about it. There might be other motivations there, which I'm intrigued. Again, I'm intrigued by that because either they're going to be together, him and her and Din are going to be together with Grogu being like the stepchild between the
Yeah.
two, or she's going to double cross him because she still wants to rule Mandalore. Like
Yeah.
let's not kid ourselves. Like she still wants to be on top, and she knows about the mythosaur. She hasn't told nobody yet. Why is that? That's cool to think about.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I think she's definitely keeping that mythosaur in her pocket because I don't know if she's going to try to go back there or what to try
I
to
would.
ride it, like,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not catching the vibes from her that she would double cross Din because it seems like she's kind of
Like she cares
finding
about
some
him.
respect for him,
Yeah, and for specifically for Grogu, I think she cares more also about Grogu because that
Yeah.
whole section with them in the second episode stuff, I felt like she really opened up to Grogu because he's a child to her.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for people who maybe haven't watched some of the animated stuff to get to know like her character because she's definitely a really cool character, and
Yeah.
it's fun that to me she seems like she's going to be a main this whole season. Like
Oh
to
yeah,
me,
hands
she
down,
seems like
hands
she's in
down.
for the ride all
She's
year.
in. Katie Sackhoff is in.
Yeah, yeah, and the point that I lost earlier that I was going to make is you can introduce new things to Star Wars and have fun with it. And to me, I just recently did a rewatch of Empire Strikes Back, which I always say, every time I watch original trilogy Star Wars, I don't know if it's just with years or whatever. It's like you just notice new stuff when you watch
Yeah,
it. It
that's
feels that you
facts.
get different vibes, like to different things you might have going on in your life at that time or whatever. You just might catch little things.
That
Empire
is
Strikes
facts.
Back does such a good job of keeping the story moving and introducing you to new shit the whole time. Like you're just
Yeah.
like you're moving in that movie. That movie starts and you're going.
Like
Like you're
there's high mind stuff in Empire Strikes Back. There's even high mind stuff in A New Hope and in even Return of the Jedi. Technically, the
yeah,
entire original trilogy has some high mind stuff in it if you know where to look. But it's giving you that while also still bringing everybody for the ride. And I think that that's the best part. And I feel like a lot of newer Star Wars stuff, with the exception of stuff that I feel like a lot of Dave Filoni has had a hand in, has really been missing out on. Because I feel like Andor totally misses that. And I was hyped up for Andor. Like I think I've even said on the show, I was really hyped up for Andor before it came out. And I was massively disappointed because of that. But you know, a lot of people in a lot of different places, when they try to criticize a lot of the criticism being hurled at these different things, they like to reference the original trilogy, specifically Empire and even A New Hope, you know, as being those the ones that like started up Star Wars and introduced a lot of the newer aspects there over time that became the Star Wars canon. The problem is, though, I feel like they always seem to forget is like, look, that high mind stuff and those metaphors and those other things were there, but it was still a fun thing to watch and follow. It wasn't trying to be so high mind that people just won't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's you could look at the fighter scene in the beginning of this, and that shows you that Filoni and Favreau get Star Wars because you have Bo-Katan's home being destroyed, where you're sad about that. And then you have this, you know, dogfight going on in the sky where you're wondering what's going to happen. But then you're also laughing at R5 in the cockpit. And you're also like kind of laughing at Grogu riding with Bo-Katan. So like you can have visual excitement, you can have suspense, you can have sad things happening, and you can also laugh at the same time.
And
that's
you
like
could have a tense thing afterwards. Because remember, Bo-Katan was going to go against that whole armada. And Dim was like, yo, listen, let's just dip out. But she was going to go guns blazing out. Like that's what was going to happen at that moment. But the point is like, it's still fun to watch regardless of any of those things that you like. It doesn't always have to be a mixture of stuff and things like that, but it does have to at least get to a point where it's like everybody's along for the ride and you're having fun watching it without it feeling like a drag. And I feel like Andor was a drag. I felt like that other section of the episode was a drag, and it really shouldn't be like that for Mandalorian.
Yeah, which I'm hoping it'll probably be the one episode that was like that. It's their little introduction episode. This is what's going on. This is who's in charge.
If rumors are to be believed, and we're taking Rosario Dawson at face value, she's in the next episode coming up.
All right,
Mando. So that could be a total palate cleanser. Be like, okay, let's go. Like we're back on track again.
Yeah, I mean, Carl Weathers leaked the name of the episode. It's called The Foundling. That's what the new episode is called.
You can always trust Carl Weathers to come through.
I know.
That's our boy right there.
I know. Because he directed this one. So he said, he's like, this week is my episode, The Foundling. And then someone commented like, Carl, I think they usually try to keep the name of the episode hidden until the reveal. And he was just
like, oops, my bad.
Yeah, my bad.
It's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to scold Carl Weathers now?
Nope.
They'll make him pull out a pistol on you. Come on now.
Yeah, no, that's one thing. I'm just like, I have fun that he's part of the Star Wars franchise and plays the character that he does in it now, because he's had a great career and he's just a fun guy to have a part of it, and he's passionate about it too.
Yeah,
you know,
we need more actors and people behind the scenes that are like that. We need less of the mudslinging on social media from these people towards the fans and towards each other and stuff like that, and more of people like him and people like Katie Sackhoff, because Katie Sackhoff really loves Star Wars. She's been in it for a hot minute now, but you could tell she really has a ball with all this stuff.
Yeah, she's like, I think she's like kind of like pinch myself, like enjoy this while I'm doing it, you know, which like some actors need to do that stuff more. I mean, it's like when people want to like think they're bigger than whatever, like, you know, I feel like that happened with Game of Thrones towards the end and the series. Like I felt like some of those actors were like, I want to move on to bigger things, you know, with
I think there was a lot of other stuff with that though. Like I think there was a lot of other factors that made it feel like that. But what I was speaking more to specifically was the way that Star Wars as a brand and the people behind it interact with the audience. Like we talked about it a couple of times where it's like, look, you don't need to be on social media beefing with fans that criticize you or saying or taking jabs or doing all these other things or promoting and like bigging up certain things just to make yourself look good. Like you don't need to be doing that. You know, you need the same type of interaction like Carl Weathers has, like Katie Sackhoff has, like like Sam Witwer has, you know, with Star Wars. Like when they come, or Rosario Dawson, even I would even throw her in there. Like whenever they come through and there's always like an interaction either on social media or promotion of like whatever project they're part of and stuff, it's always a good fun time. And it's always good to get people excited about this stuff. You know, because the other things, we don't want what we had with The Last Jedi, where people were just basically mudslinging. We don't want that whole time frame. And it's not even just the fans' fault, you know, or the viewers' fault. It's really on all sides. And the more we avoid that type of stuff, the better I think the brand's going to be down the line.
Yeah. Did you see any of those quotes from John Boyega this week?
I did. You know something? again, it's confusing. This goes back to Lucasfilm, like not getting together the message and being clear and decisive and straight up with everybody. Because let me tell you something, the one person out of all the sequel trilogy and a lot of newer Star Wars stuff under the Disney banner stuff, the one person has a big problem, has a legit big problem, is John Boyega. And to be honest with you, if what he's saying or what's been floating around is true, I think it's going to be weird time, because I can tell you right now, he did not have a good time during that era. So either they rolled out the giant truck of money for him to be like, yo, we need you. We shine a giant John Boyega symbol in the air or something. Like it's just weird. And I think also it's a bad move to go back to that era of Star Wars after what we just experienced. And with this time frame of the Mandalorian being so hot and such, unless they're going far off into the future post sequel trilogy, I think this is a bad move. And the same thing with Daisy Ridley. Remember, not so long ago, a couple months ago, if not longer, they were talking about Daisy Ridley coming back. She was meeting with Lucasfilm and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weirdness there. And it's like, I don't know about this one. I really don't know.
Yeah. I think like, and I sidetracked us with this, but I think it's like you have the old Republic just sitting right there, man.
Yeah.
Like you could give those Game of Thrones vibes, in my opinion, with Star Wars when you go back to that old school stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like those old Republic Jedi, and just a different time, like almost like medieval style Star Wars.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Knights of the Old Republic is basically medieval Star Wars. That's exactly what that whole both of those games and that entire era of the franchise is. The thing is, though, is like you could go to any era, of Star Wars right now, but you got to tell us interesting stories. You got to give us interesting characters. You got to give us interesting concepts. And I feel like going back to the sequel trilogy, and it's not because they have interesting stories to tell. I think it's really because they invested so much within that era of Star Wars, and because the Disney Galaxy's Edge is really a big thing that they want to connect more stuff to it and such like that, because they've already invested so much into it. I think that's a big problem. That's a bad motivating factors of it, especially when you got Mando in this era of Star Wars, really, and Ahsoka getting ready to come out, which is really going to do big things for people. Yeah. It's a really awkward, confusing move. Like they're going to have to really explain this, if at all, if they got anything to explain at at Star Wars Celebration.
Yep. Yeah. You know what they need to find is they need to find balance. They need to find balance in the Force. I know Disney wanted to do Galaxy's Edge, which I had a good, I know you had a good time there. I had a good time there.
Yeah. I enjoyed myself for what it was,
but you own it. You could have Boba Fett walking around your park. You could have Darth Vader walking around your park.
This whole neglecting and like trying to put on a facade of like certain things with the franchise. Like you can't, it's like, even like I say, even with social media, it's like you could celebrate Black actors during Black History Month and stuff like they did with John Boyega. They did even with Moses Ingram at one point. But where was the birthday shout out for James Earl Jones? You know what I mean? Or for Billy D. Williams. You know what I mean? Like it's little things like that and all these other different things all over the place. It's like you got the Star Wars land, Galaxy's Edge. You're trying so hard to keep everybody immersed within that world and stuff, but nobody's feeling that era. So why not just double down on giving everybody what they want and celebrate all of Star Wars? Yeah. Have like meeting, because they do it now. They have meet and greets, obviously, with Darth Vader, post Obi-Wan and stuff, with BB-8 and R2 and all those other things and such like that. But it's like, this should have been like the game plan and at least the mindset from the very get-go. And I feel like with some of these other decisions that they want to go back to stuff, it's like the High Republic. You could even talk about the High Republic, which is weird too to say this, because we just talked about Jedi Survivor having a High Republic thing with it. But like, it's more going back to the stuff with the books and everything else that a lot of people were not feeling. Like some people do, but a lot of people that are into Star Wars really weren't down with that. So it's like, why are you going to go back to that again? Technically they're also doing it also with Star Wars Eclipse, which is another game project that's like, we know nothing about at this point. That's just like, we don't even know if it's done or is it finished? Is it coming out or is it not? Like same thing even with the Ubisoft game. The Ubisoft game we're supposed to find out sometime soon. The open world Star Wars game that we just don't know nothing about. Yep. Come on, man.
Yeah, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. That would be like them having Avengers Campus and being like, yeah, we're not going to show any and no Avengers. Yeah. And we're going to only show characters post Endgame. Like that's
here. We're going to show you Daredevil. We're going to show you Luke Cage. We're going to probably show you Squirrel Girl. And there you go. Yeah. So where's Captain America? Where's Black Widow?
I want to see Iron Man.
Where's Wanda? Like, come on now. Like
But they
it's
do
just
that
weird.
with that section actually. Like I know they have that out in California, but I've seen videos of that MCU campus where it's like they get it. They get what fans want to see with that.
Yeah.
Like just get to that with Star Wars. You can still
They
have
had the
sequel.
Black Panther Shuri with Black Panther T'Challa. Canon doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it doesn't matter. It's like everybody's having a ball with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, just you want to meet the characters you want to meet. Like you own it. I mean, I don't know. There's things going on because Disney lost a boatload of money. They lost a boatload of money. They lost a boatload of Disney Plus subscribers.
There's a
So
lot going on with them right now.
yeah, we're gonna be seeing some different things. I'd like to think when it comes to the quality of what we get when it comes to these titles, and not just the fact that we're getting a title. We're getting a title. We're getting a story, and there's not to say there's not love put into these either and hard work. Like obviously there is, but like just something that's special basically is what I think they realize they need to do to keep those subscribers up basically, like other than just your old IPs and old movies that kids might want to watch, because that's where you're losing people is like you're losing subscribers who are just like, all right, there's people who are subscribing to Disney Plus now just for the Mandalorian,
Exactly.
and they'll end their subscription after Mando is done because they
And
might
then
not
probably
even
bring it back up when Ahsoka comes out.
yeah, exactly. So you got to find that way to keep those people around for those. So, all right. Well, I mean, I feel like we've hit on Mando. Now let's go to Bad Batch, which I'll say too. I watched about half of that episode, and I already know everything that happened in it because I read about it, and I let Joe and Brent on the podcast last week fully talk it out, and then I was just like, yeah, guys, I haven't watched
Checked
the full
out.
episode just because I really love the Bad Batch. I do.
Yeah, it's
But
been good this season.
yeah, I'm a fan of it. I'm not a fan of the fact I always thought I would like this. It's just the way my schedule works and everything. Like every Wednesday night, I was tuning into the Bad Batch. Now I do group watch with some of my friends for Mando. It's kind of screwed up my Bad Batch watching. So I'll be like, oh, I'll watch it on Thursday. And then maybe something might come up on Thursday where I'm just like, I should have watched it last night. And, we've only had a couple weeks of these two going together. Week one, I did it, but I don't know. For me personally, I've just had some, I kind of wish they just didn't release on the same night. I wish I had my own separate nights for each of them where I could schedule it out. But,
I agree.
mean, it's easy. You could, Bad Batch is a 30-minute show. It's just me personally, the way I like to watch something. I like to sit down and have like my experience with it. I like to be able to know that I'm going to be able to sit 30 minutes and watch this full through. I like to watch it at nighttime for some reason. Like that's just how I am. So I don't know. I need to get better with Bad Batch because I've watched the full season and then the last two episodes I fluttered a little bit. So, all right.
I feel you on that. I think also we had that same thing happen when Andor was going on and they decided to drop all of Tales of the Jedi on the same night that it premiered. So you had to compare the two, and you had to watch all of it. Cause I remember doing that. And I was like, I had so much more fun watching Tales of the Jedi than Andor that night. It was just like, it was like a whiplash. Just like going from this, it was like the high of this to the low of this. It's like, oh my God. But still, I totally feel where you're coming from with that. They need to spread out the days because you want to get people talking about new stuff on Disney Plus throughout the week, not just drop it all in one night. And then some people like miss out on certain stuff. Like it's just weird like that.
Yeah. And I don't like, I've heard some people talk about like whether there might be like some kind of, like something that might come up in the Bad Batch that like might be talked about in the future with Mando or whatever the same
I don't know
week.
about that.
I don't think they had it planned for Bad Batch to be going this late. Bad Batch was supposed to release earlier, if I'm not mistaken, because they had that date set. I remember there was a date set for Bad Batch, and then it just kind of went into when is it coming out? Like, I think it got delayed a month or two from when it was supposed to.
I know the release dates for both shows got changed at one point. I know that Mando got changed a while back, and I think Bad Batch as well. Yeah, they both did at some point, like something random. But I think that, the timing of it is just kind of like just happenstance. It just kind of happens like that. But also, I think that this whole idea that you have to watch this Bad Batch stuff because it's going to come up later in Mando, I think they're probably alluding to like the cloning stuff. And even then, I feel like that's very loose because we've talked about cloning stuff in Bad Batch, or we've seen stuff with that even in season one. But still, I think that maybe that's a little bit too far of a reach But again, we don't know with Mando because Mando hasn't really been too clear about, okay, what's up. We know that Dr. Pershing and stuff really had some things going on with cloning, maybe dealing with Mount Tantus, in some way, but we haven't really seen it. We're not seeing these clear connections. So it's a little hard to say that.
Yeah. But what are you thinking about this season of Bad Batch so far? Like, are you enjoying it? We can hit on that. We could hit on the last episode or any major points so far.
I like this season of the Bad Batch. I think it's been good more than it's been bad. There's been a couple episodes that have been kind of like meh or mediocre. Yeah. This episode being the most filler out of all of them, I guess you could say, because there's been some bangers with the Bad Batch this season, especially the Crosshair episodes. Like some of them have been fantastic.
Top tier. The Crosshair episodes have been like, top tier. I agree.
Really good stuff. And it's not even with the whole group, because there's been some good episodes with the whole group as well. When we had Gungi, or that was just like hanging with everybody and like doing stuff. Yeah. That was cool as well. But this most recent episode was definitely a filler episode. It felt like nothing was really happening. The whole monsoon or like the wave or whatever, like that was weird, and I get it. Like, I wish like maybe there was something tying in to other stuff, because at the very beginning of the episode, we see, what is it? Their former, well, not really former, but the I forgot her name, but she gives her the missions. Sid. Yeah, we see Sid there, and we know that's going to come to a head hopefully in the next episode or sometime this season. But the rest of this episode, they were just kind of like chilling and getting away from everything. But I think the problem is, though, is that when you do those episodes and you're going to get away from everything, there is got to be something that still relates back to it in some significant way. And I feel like we didn't really get that here. Like, we got the idea of like, oh, Tech and this girl are going to probably be in a relationship. They like each other clearly and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea about them settling down and everything else, it felt like it didn't really go anywhere. It didn't feel like, they were trying to make a point about maybe giving up this life of being like, on the run and all this stuff, but it really didn't go anywhere. You really feel like, okay, they're not going to stop what they're doing now mid-season. Like, come on, that's not realistic.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not wrong about that. That's why, like, last week it was like, I actually do really enjoy the Bad Batch. Like, I don't know, I didn't expect to enjoy Bad Batch as much as I have.
It's better than season one. I'll admit.
Yeah. And I like the characters and I care about it, but it's like, I go back to Disney with like cutting stuff. And it's like, I feel like the filler episodes aren't going to help these animated shows anymore. Yeah. Honestly. Like, I think you could lose views or whatever, and that might wind up on the cutting room floor, which, like, I don't want to see that happen to Bad Batch. Like I was saying, when you go on Disney Plus, on the top screen, they usually have those big banners where it's like Mando release day. Mando is going to be the first thing. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm seeing now on release day, Bad Batch will be like 5 scrolls into that, which I usually don't watch Bad Batch from that. I usually click the Star Wars link on it, but it's like that shows you, it's like they've got like a Miley Cyrus thing in front of it, and they've got like a kid show in front of it. And I think that's all timing, though. Batch.
I think that's all really timing, because again, Miley Cyrus had her concert on there. They had a Dua Lipa and Elton John thing.
That's true.
They have these other big releases on Disney Plus. Like, obviously, I think it was Pinocchio at one point, and a few other things that were just randomly all coming out around. Again, I blame Disney with the release schedule of stuff. Like, they just need to spread things out and have better planning for some of this. It's not that, there's different audiences. They're never going to cross stuff. I think a lot of people that are into Disney stuff are also into Star Wars stuff now, or vice versa in some way. But I also think that if you're going to put all this stuff out and get everything they're due, you have to spread things out. I think that what sucks about, the timing for Bad Batch now, because while the show is good for the most part, there's more good episodes than there are bad. I think that with the way that a lot of people perceive like Star Wars as a brand, like a lot of people have been losing interest and stuff, especially from the Disney Plus subscribers, it's only going to work against it. And it's like, okay, Disney at some point, or Lucasfilm at some point, is going to go with their best, biggest shows, that they're going to stick with, and leave other things to kind of just float away or just disappear and stuff. You don't want to see that with the Bad Batch, because there's so much going on for it right now. But I will say, favorite episode of the Bad Batch thus far, when they were doing the thing with Palpatine, those 2 episodes, that part 1, part 2 stuff, that I felt was some of the best stuff going on. A lot of people would say the Crosshair episodes, we've had 2, I think, so far, that have been absolute bangers. But at a personal preference, those episodes where it's like, the clone conspiracy thing, because the way it ends with the way that Palpatine's just like, he knew about all this. He made it all work to his advantage. It's like, this guy's a freaking mastermind. Like, and it makes sense, because the Bad Batch are not really going to know that he's a Sith Lord. Like none of those people are not even in the Senate. They're going to know that. But it's like, damn, this guy is really clever. He
Yeah.
just literally turned their whole effort into a death tone for the entire clone army to kickstart the stormtrooper program. It's like, and that's how we got the stormtroopers in episode 4. It's like, wow, that is some masterful tactician type of stuff.
Yeah, that was like classic. That was just classic, like prequel Palpatine, essentially, just like him just maneuvering his way through something. He's given a challenge, and he
made the other guy
to
take the fall too. The dude that basically portrayed him, he made him take the fall. It's like, wow.
And that was
good.
They got Ian McDermott to do his voice for that too.
Which is awesome.
So
awesome.
You know, you got those vibes from it when he came out. When he came out into into the, oh my God, the Coruscant,
the Senate.
When he came out in the Senate chamber, you're like, all right, shit's going down. You know,
yeah,
like he's here now.
And then the alarm's going off. It's like, oh, he's like, oh, y'all were talking smack about me before. Like I wasn't here. Y'all didn't think I didn't hear that.
I'm here.
Like I'm here now. Now what? What's this about your bill, or at least your whole filibuster about my stormtrooper program?
Yeah, like, and I'm about to give you the complete opposite result that you want.
Now, I will say though, the reason why I think that episode is good is because I also think that's a good way to do politics in Star Wars, or at least a good approach to it. Because I feel like the entire 2 episodes, it's about getting a program for the clones that aren't going to be going to war anymore, getting them to actually live out their lives, you know, as clones. Because remember, they have accelerated aging and such. But the way that they go about it, where they're talking about, okay, like, you know, having a program for retirement, having all this other stuff for living situations and living accommodations and stuff, like that type of stuff is really political, and it gets to other things that are related to real world. But their application in here and the way that it's approached, it's not harped on too much, but it's at least part of the story where it makes sense, where it's not like, you know, it's not the whole, but it's like an accent on everything else. And I thought that was really good.
No, I can agree with that. And that's not even really something that I thought of. But it is technically real world political, but it's not like they kind of beat you over the head and said this is how you should feel about
it's
whatever.
Not like what Andor was doing, where Andor was lingering on these like things and they weren't even being clear about it, where it's like, okay, like they, again, you want to be high minds. Like I feel like if you want to be high mind with political stuff, or at least, you know, inject political things that are themes or topics in relation to all this stuff, that's the way to do it with that episode, with those 2 episodes of the Bad Batch. I think that was perfect in the way they did it.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we're going to have now, are we going to have the 2 episodes coming up that finish it? Is that this week or
I don't know. I can't remember how many episodes there are. I know there's another double episode thing coming up soon, because they had this one. That was the clone conspiracy. That was the first big one, right? There's 2. I think it is.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up right
because I know they have the full schedule that they put out there. They're getting into the habit of putting the full schedule and revealing the episode titles, which I don't know how I feel about that, because again, it gets you speculating and stuff, but it also maybe has potential spoilers, you know, as you're watching the season. But still, like, at least, you know, we know that we're getting a good amount of episodes of that show.
Okay, this week we have 1 episode, and then after that it's the double finale.
Okay, so next week is going to be the big double episode. So
yeah,
that means if we get another filler episode this week, then you know next week's stuff is going down.
Yeah, I mean, this episode, I mean, as you're saying with episode titles, this episode's called Tipping Point. So
so then something has to go down. Like at this point, like you can't have an episode called Tipping Point and it be a filler, like boring episode.
Yeah. Tipping Point, which like now you're saying with them giving you the names, it's like I'm gonna speculate now. I wonder, Tipping Point, like I'm thinking if what happened in Crosshair's last episode, maybe it's his tipping point with the Empire. Maybe he's I could
totally see that. I also keep in mind we are going to get more of that Delta Squad stuff, because we did see Scorch briefly, I think, already this season.
They're badass,
not during that section where where that random clone commando got eaten or got killed by the lizard thing or whatever.
Yeah.
We're like, I know we're going to see Scorch again. So I'm really hoping that they're going to pull the trigger and actually put in Delta Squad to go against the Bad Batch. A lot of people have been asking for that for a while, and that would be so awesome.
Yeah. I really loved the clone who was in charge at the planet in the Crosshair episode, you know, where they had to freaking bust their asses just to save some stormtrooper armor.
Like he was like treating them like expendable, and it's like you could sympathize where Crosshair is coming from at the end of that episode where he blasted him. Like that was you knew
Dude
why he did it, and you were like, yes.
It.
Yes, he deserved it. And what sucks is that he's going to be punished for that. Like, we know he's being punished for it technically. He's being used as a guinea pig from what, at least the end of that episode, what it looks like. But still, like, I'm intrigued by it because I know that now I think we're in the mid part of the season, I think. But whatever it's going to be now, whatever's coming for Tipping Point or the one afterwards, it's hopefully going to be some big stuff now that we already got the filler out the way.
Yeah. And the Bad Batch is going to be like, yeah, we can't retire because we got to go another couple seasons to do. You know, you can retire when the show is over. You know,
right?
not on your vacation.
I don't think they're getting a happy ending. I think the Bad Batch by the end of the series, I think they're going to have a bad ending where it's like not bad, but like they go out in a blaze of glory. Like, because we're not obviously going to see them in future projects. Like, I think at some point they're either going to cross paths with Delta Squad or they're going to cross paths with Vader, which would be very interesting if that's the case, because we know during the time of the Bad Batch, Darth Vader is lurking, like he's doing things in the galaxy. So what is the one thing that they cannot stop when you really think about it in this time frame that the Bad Batch cannot solve? That is like, you know, the end all be all would probably be something involving Vader. Because I don't think now we've already seen Emperor Palpatine, you know, he's already kind of did his thing, and now they kind of doomed the rest of the clone army, you know, at this point in the timeline. So it's going to be intriguing.
Have they even mentioned Echo in the last couple episodes, like what he's doing? Basically,
he's with Rex, right?
Yeah, but like I don't know. I kind of like I want that to. Well, there's been the rumors that that's what's the start of what Echo Base is going to be, is that he went off and created that.
That seems cheesy. Like that seems like a reach. If they do something like that or allude to that, it's very cheesy.
Yeah.
Like, but
I mean, you could see it technically because
maybe
he's
in
like
this upcoming
two-parter.
Maybe in this upcoming two-parter, we actually get to see him, because I think we're going to see Rex again. I think we're going to see Commander Cody again, more than likely. You know, I think we're going to see all these people again at some point. And I think we're also going to see other characters, because remember, we've seen Bail Organa, you know, with that two-parter with the whole political thing, you know, when Palpatine showed up, we got to see him. We got to see all those. We haven't seen Tarkin yet. That's another one we haven't really seen this season. So that could be another
there's lingering pieces out there for these last 3 episodes that can really do something. And you know what's funny, and I think it's telling too, is we've been doing a like a March Madness like poll on Twitter, where we've been you know doing the bracket of all Star Wars characters and everything. And Captain Rex just beat Grogu this yesterday.
You're right.
So voting wise, the fans voted for Rex over Grogu, which like it's I'm gonna come out and say
obviously. Grogu let him win. There's no way. Grogu is the end
look
all
how
be
cute
all
he is.
Star Wars right now.
Look at him on your shirt, man. Look at him. He's great.
Exactly. Like, I'm not even a giant Grogu fan, but let's be real here. This right here is why Star Wars exists at the moment. Like, this is the main reason why the Mandalorian was hot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
literally,
and that's why it's bringing in other people outside of the Star Wars fandom, because they see that little guy and they want to jump in on it. So
big time.
So big time. I think I pretty much hit all the things we got. I mean, do you got any points that you wanted to hit tonight? You know, like any topics or anything that we maybe
the only
missed?
other thing I could think of that we lightly talked about, and I don't think we even talked about in depth, was the lawsuit for the Acolyte, which just again, that happened
tell
recently.
Me about that. Tell me about what's going on with that.
I don't remember all the details, but the main point is that someone who was working on the Acolyte briefly that got hired up by Lucasfilm, that they had some sort of deal or email agreement, which was some sort of agreement for her to come on board for the Acolyte and do a certain amount of work while saying no to other projects in Hollywood. Like, I don't remember the exact details. You would have to look it up for the names, but it's basically that she agreed to work with Lucasfilm for a set amount and all these other things, said no to this other Apple TV project that just went away and stuff. And now right afterwards, I think it was after like 2 weeks or some short time frame, they dropped her from the Acolyte. They completely just dropped her. And she's like, wait a second, like, what the heck? Like, I'm not even being given a reason and stuff. So she's suing them for wrongful termination, basically, which is not good. And, you know, when you have emails and when you have a verbal agreement that costs you another job in Hollywood, that's a big deal. It's a very big deal.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff can be life-changing. I mean,
it is life-changing, because look, she just lost out on a whole other project and then she just got dropped for no reason, according to her.
Yeah, that's not a good look for the studio. I mean, it's just really just shows you there's dysfunction going on within it. So, I mean, didn't Kennedy say that she's probably done within a year or two? Like,
Well, after Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny comes out, that's her last thing, and then that's when she's gonna like phase out. I
and
don't know. I don't remember if there was a time frame exactly, but I know John Campy was the one that came out and said he talked to somebody, said like, yeah, the decision's already been made. Like that was the headline that was going around for a lot of different places, and I believe that because I think at some point, Disney at some point needs to have the buck stop with them. It's like, okay, what are we doing? Like, are
Mhm.
we doing this? Are we not? Are we going to change up stuff? We're going to stick with what we know. And I think that they've finally decided to change up stuff. And
Yeah,
I think it's for the better, to be honest with you. And I don't have anything ill will against Kathleen Kennedy. You got to understand there's a lot of factors that come into play when you're the head of Lucasfilm, but the buck
absolutely.
stops with you. You bear the responsibility when you're steering the ship when it comes with this stuff. And there was a lot of things that a lot of people have finally opened up to criticizing her about her time being the head of Lucasfilm, with all the projects that got canceled, all the things that were going on crazy behind the scenes, all the weird public relations stuff with the sequel trilogy and the way that people talked about, Star Wars as a brand, while all this other stuff with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau is going on over here. Like it's just been a weird thing. But like when you hear stuff like this, with lawsuits and stuff that actually has merit, that has weight behind it and stuff, it's not a good look. So
Yeah.
it's something that I feel like they need to somehow deal with and come to a compromise in some way so we could get back to, having the message being about our new Star Wars project coming up. Because let me tell you something, if you see the Acolyte at Star Wars Celebration, what do you think is the first thing that's going to come up? Or one of the first things that's going to come up?
Yeah, probably the fact that there's a lawsuit going on with
There's
it.
a lawsuit going on and such. And,
Yeah.
that kind of sucks. But if they could deal with that and then be able to show us that show in some capacity, this is why I say Star Wars Celebration is so key this year, because they're making such a big deal about it, which, on top of that, the idea of them not streaming the panels, which I thought was weird, dumb decision. Like
I read they're not streaming it at all. I
yeah,
just
which
read
is
nothing
weird.
is
Like
streaming at all.
last year they streamed everything and it was awesome. Everybody
Yeah.
we had that awesome Hayden Christensen moment for freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like
Yeah.
this is where the fun begins. Everybody lost their damn minds.
Yeah.
Like why would you take that away? Unless again, like there's other stuff that they either have some big things planned, which I don't know why you wouldn't stream that and let the world know what you're doing. Or two, they really are all over the place and they just need to kind of, really focus on what they need to get done and really kind of, get things in motion for being solidified so people could feel good about Star Wars.
Yeah. When I read that they weren't streaming it, to me, number one, my first thought is this: that's absolute BS.
That's
one.
a horrible. That like I didn't believe it at first. I'm like, there's no way, because last year they streamed it. Why would they not?
Yeah, I'm like, that's a horrible decision as a company, because you have a worldwide fan base. It's not just United States, and obviously it's in London this year.
Yeah.
And number two, their motto they kept saying last Star Wars Celebration was "Star Wars is for everyone." They kept saying Star Wars is for everyone. Well, guess what? It's not. If you're not going to allow,
if you can't see
us
it,
a peek, exactly. And what they did is now I even had beef with last Celebration, just because when they were doing some of the panels in the bigger room, like I wanted to see some of that stuff too. Like they wouldn't show those. Like they would have stuff in the bigger room in front of the crowd, and then they would come out into the room and do the interviews, which is where Hayden Christensen said, like, this is where.
Well, wait a second. I'm confused, because my understanding was like all those big things that we saw with like Rosario Dawson, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, all the stuff that was the stream. That was the big stream. Like I didn't remember anything else that was going on.
Now they did separate Q&As in an auditorium where all the cast would be sitting on.
Okay, no, that makes sense not to stream that then. Like that's exclusively for the people that said that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
it's
like
not
I
like
can
they
live
were
with
just
that.
not showing anything. That's my point. This year they're not showing anything, which is weird.
Yeah, I can live with that, but like I also think to myself, it's like no matter what, you're going to fill the seats in there, even if you do stream that stuff. But this year, it's like what bothered me was they were live tweeting from the Star Wars account everything that was being said in those rooms when you couldn't see it. So I'm just like, all right, like this kind of sucks.
I think that's a social media play then, because again, you gets them to follow Star Wars or at Star Wars on social media. It gets you into the event, as an exclusive thing, which again, you could argue there's been a lot of weird stuff with the social media stuff. I've even noticed it, even because recently they just got on TikTok. Which
I noticed.
If you go through looking some stuff, where if you know where to look, it looks a little weird, a little questionable. But it's like we'll see what's up with that. But the main thing is that with this Star Wars celebration, I really believe that they should just stream it. They should just do like what they did last year. It'd be perfect.
Yeah.
It'd be fine. There could be also some logistical reasons why not to, but you got to be clear about that. I feel like with this fan base, you got to tell everybody, because right now it just sounds like, and it looks like they just don't want to stream it and they're not giving a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
What do you get from that? Like,
yeah, the only thing I could think is it's just like, well, it cost us probably like, 300,000 or whatever. I have no clue what amount it would cost to
they
stream
can afford
but
it. They can
yeah.
afford it. You don't even need that type of money. You just put a computer, a good like
Yes.
Razor or Alienware, get yourself a camera or the DSLR
Absolutely.
they had.
Yeah, I don't care if it's just a corner camera with a mic in the room just to make you feel
Just
like
the
you
same
can
setup they
peek
had
in.
last year. Do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That I don't understand why that's difficult to do.
Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily need to be like a hosted production show to me. Just have like almost like the way you can look in on like webcams at certain locations just see what's going on. Just have it so like people can pop in, because I can't go to Europe right now, and a large majority of Star Wars fans can't. And I'm really excited for the people who can. Like, I'm not trying
awesome.
I'm not trying to crap on their parade. Like, I'm very excited. Like, Jess, who hosts our podcast, Duchess of Darksaber Light, sometimes she is going, and I'm really excited because
Nice.
like, she'll be able to, she'll probably let us know some stuff going on, and she can do a one of her weeks where she hosts here and talks about her experience there, which I can't wait to hear that. I'm really excited for her that she's going to it. But I do wish that fans at home could experience it, and we're just gonna have to sit there on Twitter and
just cover it as it comes out, because the trades are going to write about the stuff. They're going to share things and whatnot. But again, I think that it's detrimental to not at least have that stream going. Exactly like last year. That's all you need to do. And I feel like they could get a W with that, especially if they announce something big, because a lot of people have said that they're going to announce some big stuff. But it's like, if you're going to announce some big stuff, or if you got something to talk about, why wouldn't you have that available? And again, we don't know as far as going into Star Wars Celebration is concerned, we'll know as soon as like the day that it happens, or days, I should say, because it's like 2-3 days, right? Star Wars Celebration, something like that.
Yeah, I think it might be 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and as you said, social media hype wise, man, they've been posting the crap out of Celebration. Like, the hype train is there. So
yeah, they post a lot, like on Twitter. I see a lot of stuff, and on Instagram.
Yeah, which is interesting because I'm listening to the audiobook of Anthony Daniels' I Am C-3PO, which is damn good, because it's like, if you want an interesting perspective on Star Wars, he's a man who's been in everything of Star Wars. Yeah. So he
was there.
Yeah.
Literally.
Hearing his experience, hearing his behind the scenes experiences and everything, which, like, there was a chapter where he talked about the first ever Star Wars Celebration, which was like them setting up tents and like,
that's all this first Comic-Con is like. That's the exact same story as the first Comic-Con.
Yeah. And it was like, it was really cool to hear that. And I think to myself, I'd love to go to it at one point. I mean, if it's in the States next year, which I heard there's a rumor there's not going to be a Star Wars Celebration next year.
Not next year. It's going to be the year after. I think it is.
Which
something
like
that, because it's going to go by week. Again, that's a product of them not having anything really to talk about or doing stuff, and then the next year having stuff to show or whatnot. But we'll know, hopefully, as this show comes up.
Yeah, and I also wonder if they have a succession plan for Kathleen Kennedy with all of this too.
Like, they're going to have to. When she's going, that all of it gets figured out. They'll know way in advance before we know.
Yeah. And it's like, I would love to think like of Favreau or Filoni having larger roles when it comes to Star Wars as a whole, because I think those guys feel it and they understand it. That those 46 minutes of the last episode put aside, but they're also not like studio leaders. Like, I don't know. Favreau, I think, has enough experience in Hollywood. It's just a matter of if he wants to do it. I don't know if he's working on any other projects right now outside of it, but I mean, that dude's done a ton of stuff outside of Star Wars.
I know there was reports at one point that was a job that a lot of people weren't willing to take for many reasons. I don't think that's a lot of it is true, but like, there's probably some truth littered in there somewhere, before all we know, but we'll know. We'll know what's up. I don't think that they announced that or talk about that this Star Wars Celebration. I don't think you talk about that at all, especially with some of these last few projects that are under Kathleen's, watch or Kathleen's release schedule. I don't think that's appropriate. And also, you got to keep in mind, I feel like they're not going to just like let her go out without celebrating her time there. You know what I mean? Kind of like, celebrating her ending of this time frame. and stuff,
Yeah.
as opposed to her just being quote unquote removed or fired or whatever else people
Yeah.
want to say and stuff. I feel like that's not necessarily how it's going to go down.
Yeah.
You know, she's going to be celebrated as things come to an end, because like I said, her last project is Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, which I'm excited for, man. I've been searching for the merch for that. I've been seeing some people getting some stuff for it,
Trailer
you
looked
know.
good. Trailer looked good. Again, I'm avoiding a lot of the leaks and stuff, and a lot of the scoops and spoilers that have been lurking around and such. And a lot of it, again, I don't believe it because it just sounds so outrageous. But if I walk into that theater and I see that all come to true, I'm like flipping a popcorn bucket or something. Like it's
I
weird.
haven't
Because
I haven't
you got to
seen
go in
some of them.
suspect now.
Yeah, I haven't seen any like rumors or leaks, honestly, but like I'm wondering what we're gonna get because Crystal Skull is a little weird, you
Crystal
know.
Skull is horrible.
Yeah,
It was bad. That
it's
was an
bad.
L. You had
I
Shia
recently
LaBeouf in there. You had all these weird stuff with monkeys jumping around. You had this whole thing with aliens. It's like, what the heck are we doing?
they wanted to have fun with CGI in an Indiana Jones movie with
Right?
that. That's what I recently threw it on because honestly I saw that in theaters and to me it was a bit forgettable to me in theaters. And I recently threw it on again and I'm just like, yeah, some of this stuff is just too off the charts where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, we're getting a little too bizarre now. Like obviously Indiana Jones does some crazy stuff, like, you know, in the original movies. But you know, that movie got a little weird with things and
A
the
little
aliens
weird.
and everything. Yeah,
Got
it
a
got
lot
crazy.
weird.
Yeah,
And
so we'll
goofy as
see if
heck.
they go that. We'll see. We'll see. I really have a feeling they're going to try to call back to what made it so good. Then
Go
again, we
back to
sit here and
Raiders.
criticize. Yeah,
Go
we
back
sit
to
here and
Raiders. Go back
criticize
to good
Star Wars
Indiana
stuff.
Jones. It's crazy.
Another interesting point too is me being a Lego fan, Lego collector. Technically,
Mhm.
Indiana Jones sets are coming out, which there was controversy about it because Lego tries to avoid like violence technically, even though Star Wars is
They
probably
did
one of their
Indiana Jones
biggest.
Lego games. Like
I know.
it's nothing new to them. Like,
Yep, but like but they won't make the Temple of Doom set. They made it. They made a new Temple of Doom set which looked
okay.
awesome.
Uh-huh.
And now the waves are releasing. We have set from Indiana Jones when he's with his dad in the car with the plane where the
So Last
plane loses
Crusade.
his wings, Last
Yeah.
Crusade.
Yeah.
Um you have, oh my gosh, there's a one full big diorama from Raiders of the Lost Ark with the ball scene and everything.
Okay. So with the
Beautiful
giant boulder.
diorama. But apparently for Temple of Doom, they're saying like the scene is technically like too violent because it's like the room where they're
What?
like sacrificing the guys, I guess.
Well, couldn't they do the bridge? Like the whole bridge scene? That's a big thing in Indiana Jones.
The
Or the
the most
beginning.
the most interesting rumor that I saw is I can't think what's his name, the guy who just won the
Short round. The guy who played short
yep,
round.
the guy who played
You
short
on?
round.
Yeah.
His minifigure is in the Temple of Doom set,
Yeah.
and they think that his agent was like, we need more money because he just, as far as his status goes, he just jumped.
Yeah. Well,
You
he
know?
just won the Oscar. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that gets figured out like that though. There's got to be another reason. Like that sounds a little weird because that type of stuff gets figured out way before any of
Before.
this stuff. So way before he won the Oscar.
Yeah. I didn't
Like,
believe that actually
yeah, that
for
doesn't make
that
any
exact
sense to me.
reasoning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can't say after a deal is made where you're just like, we want
Like now
more
you're gonna
money now.
change the deal. You're not gonna alter the deal, son.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like those are when rumors are a little ridiculous, like because it's unrealistic. I could totally believe though if they were worried about the scene being too violent when it comes to changing the type of scene or changing the content of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm
The
pretty sure short
sacrifice
round,
room.
Indy, Marion, any of these other characters are going to be involved with it,
Yep.
like that. But if that's the case, I'd say if they have to do the set, do the bridge scene. If not, do the mine carts, whatnot, or because the minecart sounds like it'd be like the easiest, most popular one to do, or do the beginning when Indy's in the white suit, in the very beginning
Yeah.
of the movie, like that.
Yeah.
Like,
And like
they have ideas they could work with.
absolutely. And the bridge scene actually is genius that you brought that up because I'm picturing that now in Lego and that would be freaking awesome.
Yeah,
Throw
that's a
some little
big
gators
like
down at the bottom.
everybody thinks of the mine carts from Temple of Doom, like because it's such a famous thing about it. Even the Indiana Jones games reference that, but
Yep.
still, like if you're gonna do something in Lego and you need a new set, like you have options.
Absolutely. Which like and one final point to like hit on too. I actually watched the Academy Awards this year.
Yeah, me too. I
Which
like the
like
Academy Awards. They're dope.
Yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes I've tuned them out, but it's like to me, I feel like you're hitting theaters on opening days right now. Like I
Yeah.
always see that and I kind of get hyped about that because it makes me excited for movies. Like I love to go to the
I love going
movies.
to the movies. That's my
Yeah.
big one of my biggest things as a kid. My first movie I ever saw as a young kid was Batman Returns in theaters. Like, because I was such a big fan of Batman '89 because of the VHS I had. Because Batman '89 came out a year after I was born. I was born in '88,
Okay.
and I love Batman ever since. So seeing Batman in the theater solidified my love for going to movies because I got the poster, went to McDonald's and got the Happy Meals afterwards. It was an experience. So I love going to the theaters as an experience, like getting the concession stand, hitting a drink or whatever, getting whatever merch or stuff, for whatever movies. When I went to go see the Batman in theaters last year, I ended up getting the big popcorn bucket for the cow, like that, and the comic and the drinks. Like it was a whole thing for me. So
Dude, that thing is sick too.
yeah, if anybody listening now or watching this, if you ever seen the pictures of it, like it looks dope. It's a cool cow that's a popcorn bucket. That they
Yeah.
did it for Ant-Man recently too for his helmet. But the main thing is that going to the movies and going to the theater specifically is a real experience for me. So that's why I love going to see them as often as I can. And then watching the Academy Awards now, a lot of people dunk on the Academy Awards for one reason or another, and I get it. The last couple of years have been a little weird and cringe, but this year was dope. Like this year
I
was
agree.
a good year.
Yeah.
People won or places and movies won. Like there was some disappointments for some people, but a lot of it is reaching. A lot of it is like pulling at strings for other stuff. Like the biggest one was Angela Bassett not winning for Best Supporting Actress because it went to Jamie Lee Curtis, for
Mhm.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. That swept the entire, the entire
Absolutely.
night for the most
Yeah.
part. And there's other things to discuss about it that's part of other conversations, and I get it. But as a show, I felt this year, despite in the wake of being of the slap, and all these other things, that was working against it, it was still a good year. I felt
Yeah.
it was fun. People got to be okay with others enjoying the idea of being a celebrity, the idea of Hollywood,
Mhm.
especially new school Hollywood referencing old school Hollywood. Like we gotta get away from this whole mindset of looking for a problem with every little thing.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, other shows being cringe, it's part of the reason why I kind of tuned out to it because it's like I just want to enjoy people getting awarded for good movies, good work,
Or
and
just
like,
celebrating movies. Like,
yeah,
yo,
celebrating
everything
movies as a
everywhere all at
whole.
once was dope. We got a celebration for Avatar, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah,
The Whale. Brandon Fraser for getting that Oscar for The Whale. That's a feel good story. Like that
absolutely.
man went through hell for
Yeah.
years, and then now he's walking away with an Academy Award.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was good was because there. I feel like movies are like I don't know. Obviously, COVID had a lot to do with stuff, and I felt like movies and movie theaters like got a pretty shitty deal when all of that started happening. And I feel like they're making a comeback kind of right now, which
Mm.
I like because I like going to the theater the way you do too. It's like to me that experience will always just be great for me, even if you see a bad movie. It's not like, it might not be the best, but you got to go to the theater, you got to get the popcorn, you got to get
Even if it's expensive, like
yeah,
theaters are expensive. They're sometimes way too expensive for what they are, especially with the concession stands and stuff. But the experience is fun. Like
yeah,
when you're going to go see a Star Wars movie, I've even told you, and I told other people, the best time I ever had, or one of the best times I ever had in a movie theater, was going to see The Force Awakens. And I got to see that with the 501st down here in a theater in IMAX and watching
yeah,
that with droids in my, the aisles. So it
yeah,
doesn't get any better than that. Or for me, opening night to go see Endgame. That and after that, I saw that movie like 7 times in theaters afterwards over time. But like
yeah,
that first night, like there's a thing in the air about
yeah,
it, like that you're gonna go see this movie. And I get the same thing now, going to go see John Wick 4 because there's so much good like buzz about that with John Wick, and that's an awesome series. Is like it's fun to me. I think like going to the movies and experiencing the theater is a fun overall good time. And
absolutely.
I feel like more people need to just be accepting of that. Just
Hmm.
to not see so much fault. Or always. I shouldn't say not always, but like always looking for the fault of like Hollywood and stuff in light of all these other things that have happened.
Yes, exactly. If you can like if there's things that bother you, if you can just block it from your mind, go to the movies, get your popcorn, sit in the seat and just escape
Have fun.
reality. Yeah, have fun. Yeah, I'm all in on that.
We
Like
don't need
it,
to hear about the controversies of Hollywood all the time. Like it's
absolutely.
okay to relax,
Yeah.
chill.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I remember the freaking Harry Potter release nights. Those were
Don't
wild.
even get me started with Harry
Those were
Potter. Like, oh
wild,
my
dude.
God. Like between Hogwarts Legacy and everything else, it's like it's crazy.
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all right, man. I feel like we hit on a lot of great stuff tonight. I mean, we covered the board. I mean, we hit pretty much a ton of stuff. So
Yeah, they got a
why don't
beefy
you
episode.
yeah, everybody got a little bit of everything. A little DC, a little Marvel, a little Disney, a little Star Wars, a little Hollywood in general, behind the scenes stuff. So we hit it all, man. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on everything? I know you got your link tree set up now too,
Yeah,
with
finally.
everything in it too. So why don't you tell everybody, where they can find you on everything for all your reviews and everything you do.
Yeah, sure. So if you guys want to check out any of my content daily or weekly, I'm on YouTube, youtube.com/at Jakejames Lugo. You just search for Jake James Lugo in the search bar on YouTube. I upload literally every single week, highly edited, highly produced video reviews of all types of games, especially Star Wars games. If you're big into Star Wars games, I have a whole playlist. I'm probably one of the few content creators that covers the most Star Wars games, that like
Absolutely.
actual reviews on YouTube, because I know there's a lot of other content creators that cover Star Wars games. They play them and all this stuff. But like, you go look at my playlist and look at the types of games I reviewed and how many I reviewed. I'm pretty sure you'll get a kick out of it. So go check that out. As well as also other game reviews that I have on there, new releases, retro games. I did Hogwarts Legacy. I did Knights of the Old Republic. I've done Dragon Ball Z games, like some of the RPGs recently on Game Boy Advance. This week, probably in the next day or so, I'm going to fully record it and shoot it. My review of Jade Empire from the original Xbox. If anybody's a big BioWare RPG fan, you got a lot to look forward to with that. I got a lot to say with that game. Outside of that, you can find me also on Twitter at Jakejames Lugo, always on there every single day, tweeting about stuff, sharing some of my work, some of the things that I make on videos, podcasts, writing, all types of stuff is on there. I'm on TikTok at Jakejames Lugo, daily uploads, multiple daily uploads about games, about Star Wars. Even today, when the Jedi Survivor trailer dropped, I gave a reaction that I also talked about a whole bunch of other stuff in relation to that. I did a little mini review of talking about Star Fox games, talking about Kingdom Hearts, talking about a whole bunch of stuff that's on my TikTok every single day, at least 2 to 3 uploads per day that you got there to check out. I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/JakeJamesLugo. New exclusive content every single week, new podcast exclusives, new exclusive videos, early access to videos on YouTube. It's just for $1. Literally, you get all that content. It's a ridiculous amount of content. I highly suggest and I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. I'm trying to get more people to go check out the Patreon because I don't think a lot of people have seen it and realize how much content that's on there. So definitely check that out if you can. All this stuff, like I said before, is connected together on my link tree. So if you go to my link tree, it's on any one of my profiles. They're all over the place. So they're all connected. So you can just click on there. It has all the links that you can want to see: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Patreon, Discord. I'm also on Discord. I have a whole Discord server. Everybody could just go hang on. It's free to join, which is awesome. We talk Star Wars, we talk games, talk anime. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. I'm trying to get people to talk in there more too. So if you're looking for more communities to join, more stuff to check out, go check out all that stuff. There's a lot. I know it's a mouthful, but still, hopefully you guys check it out and hopefully you guys enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're a busy man and I enjoy all the content. I appreciate you putting that content out. I'm always making sure, even if I'm on TV, I'm always making sure I give it the little thumbs up on the TV because people don't realize what a thumbs up will do for videos, man.
Well,
That's why
day.
people, yeah, absolutely.
It will make your day.
Yeah, it helps out everything too. So, I mean, I always love doing these episodes. I mean, me and you, I think we've done I think this is our 6th time, honestly. It might be our 5th or 6th time we've done these, and I don't know. It's just a natural hangout, man. We just chat it up. We just talk about everything from top to bottom, and that's why it's fun.
It's fun.
And yeah, exactly. So, for us on Rule the Galaxy, we'll be doing another episode this week on. We'll be recording Thursday night, release Friday, doing some Mando talk. I'm not totally sure who our guest is. I could look at my email right now, and I don't know actually because I don't have my email up. Joe knows it. Yeah, we'll make it a surprise. As we've said before, we're going to be at the ICCC Con in Nashville. So if you guys haven't checked that out, definitely
they just announced
check out.
Hayden for that recently. I thought
they're doing they're doing the whole, I think it's fairly obvious, the whole Rebels crew.
Yeah.
All the actors and stuff. I don't know if Hayden's going or not.
Yeah, I saw a thing that somebody was talking about. There's a bunch of people that are going
Yeah.
to that.
Ian
That's really
McDermott's
the Star
going
Wars.
to it, and all the Rebels crew, and like, you know, there's other, they cover like the whole board. They go crazy with that
Yeah.
convention, and I didn't get to go to it last year. I'm finally flying out to Nashville this year and going to this convention. We're gonna have a little podcast booth there and everything. We're gonna have some merch, which also I need to send you out a t-shirt. I have a bunch
Yeah,
of
send me a
Rule the
t-shirt. I'll
Galaxy
wear it.
t-shirts.
It's cool.
I got someone out to you.
Go
So
lurking
well,
around with a Rule the Galaxy t-shirt. Be
yeah.
like, Rule the Galaxy, what's this guy's
Yeah,
problem?
yeah.
Like,
I'll get that info from you after this. But yeah, you guys know where to find us. Rule the Galaxy podcast. We're everywhere. We're on Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on all the things you can find us, all major podcast platforms. So we appreciate you guys subscribing to us. And till next time, from me, from Jakejames Lugo, may the force be with you.
laters.